Dean, and you're kicking it in the WSC Lounge with Jason and Brian, sharing all the latest on wrestling and soap and all your entertainment news.
Hey guys, it's country recording artist Katie Bell Aiken, and you're listening to WSE Lounge.
Hi, this is Eric Bishop, and you're listening to WSE Lounge. Hey guys, I'm Robert Palmer Watkins. I play Dylan Quartermain on General Hospital, and you are listening to the WSE Lounge.
This is country music singer Amanda Joe, and you are listening to the WSE Lounge.
Hey guys. Hello there, this is Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, and you're listening to WSE Lounge. This is Frank Hernandez. Hey, this is Bagwell, and guess what? You're listening to the WSE Lounge.
This is country music singer Ashley Carter, and you're listening to the WSE Lounge.
This is Mike Blanchard, and you are listening to the WSE Lounge.
Hey y'all, we're Donnie Dixie, and you're listening to the WSE Lounge.
I'm Jeff Jarrett, the founder and CEO of King of the Mountain. Jeff Jarrett.
Hey, this is Kristen Alderson, and you're listening to the WSE Lounge.
Hi, this is Mark Merrill, former Intercontinental Champion with the World Wrestling Entertainment and John Cena, three-time World Television Champion. Don't forget now, it's going to be a mess. Join us.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final edition of the WSE Lounge on Blog Talk Radio. I am your host, Brian. Today we're going to be discussing the disaster in Dudley, Georgia at Legends Fest. And first, I'm going to bring on area code 229. I'm not exactly sure who that is. Area code 229, you're on there.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, is this Zane Stevens?
No, sir. This is Noel Pride, man.
No, bro. Okay. Were you at the Legends Fest in Dudley, Georgia?
Unfortunately, I was. And it was a very big disaster, so.
Can you give us your story on it? What exactly went down?
Well, I wasn't really there for the first bit that actually happened, between, Arn and, Greg Green and Ted DiBiase. I caught some of the little afterward story, when I went to the back. He was pretty much the guy who was throwing Paul Eubanks under the bus, trying to push him off and push him over as being the promoter. The guy showed up with no money in hand to pay anybody. And honestly, as a promoter, and anybody knows in this business, indie wrestlers, they don't have a contract that they can fall back on. There's no salary for these guys and women that do this in this business in the indie. So, they have to rely on that one promoter, and they, most of the time they do go off of somebody's word. And over the years, everybody knows that, when somebody says that they're going to do something, your word is supposed to be your bond. It's kind of like, being all a part of the brotherhood. But, the guy pretty much stiffed everyone there. And I just like to tell everybody, I honestly, I feel very, very bad, and it really kind of hurt my soul because, I'm not one of the boys. So, I don't know what that feels like, but, Greg Green showed up, no money in hand, obviously really had no intentions on paying anybody. The guy, to me, it seemed like he took being a mark to a whole nother level. So, that's bad enough as it is.
I'll tell you, thank you so much for your story, and hate to cut you short, but we got so many other people that were there at the event that we're going to get stories from. But thank you so much for your call, sir.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Mr. Dale Wilkes, the Patriot, to hear his side of the story. Dale, you there?
I am.
Hey, what exactly happened? So down there in Dudley, Georgia, I know it was a chaotic, crazy catastrophe, if you could say.
Well, it was, and here's what happened. I was eyewitness to it. My wife and I got there. Greg told me to be there between 12 and 1. There were going to be two parts to this show. The first part, from around 12 to 5, would be the legends, the signing, the meet and greet, and then the second half would be the actual matches, which would start about 7. So Kathy and I got there around a little before 1 o'clock, and when we pulled up, it was suspicious from the very beginning because of just the location of the building. An event of this nature stars a number of stars, iconic names in the business, and it was literally 20 miles from society in the middle of nowhere. And when we pulled up, at first appearance, it looked like an abandoned school building to me. And there was no one there to tell you where to go. There was a lady sitting at the door, one of the doors that was an entrance to the building. She had no clue as to what was going on, where we were to park, what building, what room, what hall to go down. We finally worked our way down a hall, and there were people there pointing us to a room off this hall where the legends were going to be seated and signing and greeting and taking pictures and selling their merchandising. And it was, once you got in the building, it was literally what I thought it was when I pulled up, an abandoned school building. We got into the room where they were going to have the legends, times as small as it, I mean, it was cramped, to say the least, and it was hot. I think they had maybe one window unit in there. They had a couple of fans in the room, and it was smoldering, smoking hot. And then on top of that, it stunk like a building that had been closed up for years. It stunk like one of those old Texaco bathrooms where someone had flushed the toilet in about 3 weeks and had been locked up. I mean, it was a horrendous odor. So just the appearance of the facility was very suspicious. I had never met Greg. As I come to find out later, most of the guys that were there had never met Greg. The moment I saw him, the first time I laid eyes on him, he was sweaty. I mean, he couldn't stop sweating. He was pale. He was nervous. He was jittery. When he tried to talk, his tongue sounded like it was about 3 times the size it normally was, and like it was sticking to the roof of his mouth, an extreme case of dry mouth, cotton mouth. And I told Kathy, I said, this just doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel right. About an hour after being there, I went to Greg and asked him for my money or for my envelope. He asked me just to give him a few minutes and let things get settled down, and he would get back with me. Now, let me back up a little bit. The room that the legends were in, I was at the entrance. When you come into that room off the hallway where the fans came in, I was the first guy there at the first table. To me was Barry Windham, and then later to the left of him was Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. When Arn and Tully get there a little later, Arn comes in and he sits down, and he sits in a folding chair, and immediately the chair collapses, and Arn goes straight to the ground, takes a bump in front of all the fans, which had to be embarrassing. Several of us went over and helped Arn get back up to his feet. He then motioned for Greg to get over to the table. He took Greg aside and commenced to chewing Greg's rear end out. I'm sure about just the horrible conditions, the chair breaking down on him. So it just started out bad for all of us. Now, and when I went to look for Greg, again, let me back up one more time.
Okay.
Ted DiBiase come walking over to our table, and Arn said, "Hey, Teddy, have you ever worked for this guy before?" And Ted said, "No, I haven't, Arn." He said, "Well, have you gotten your envelope yet?" Ted said, "No, I haven't." Arn replied, "Well, I haven't either." Well, none of us had. A few minutes later, I decided to go look for Greg again. This would be the second time that I would approach him about my envelope and get my money. As I walk out into the hall, I see him, and he's standing in the hall with DiBiase and Arn Anderson. And as I walk up on him, Arn's doing all the talking, and Ted's just really standing there listening. And Arn's hammering the guy about the money. And it was apparent then that based on what I was listening between Arn and Greg, that there was no money. So we then took Greg into another room off this hall. And it was a big empty room. And we get him into the room, and we start quizzing him more. And when I say we, it's just me and Arn at this point that are doing all the talking. A lot of the other talent is now starting to come into the room. Tully, Sonny, I think Tracy Smothers may have come in. Of course, DiBiase was in there. Well, there was a wall in the middle of this room that divided this room into two parts. One was a bigger empty area, and when you went on the other side of the wall, it was a much smaller little area. Well, Greg's phone was dead, and he kept telling me and Arn that there were two guys that were supposed to help fund this and back this, but didn't. There was there were money that was supposed to be put in his account that didn't go into his account that would be in there on Monday morning. And then there would be two men, Mr. Smith and Mr. Eubanks, that were supposed to help but didn't help. And to me, that was like a scene out of a Tarantino movie. Mr. Eubanks, Mr. Smith, the wolf.
It sounds like to me, Dale, that all of y'all got slapped in the face, and it's just disrespectful and out of hand. And speaking of that, another guy that was there, I want to bring on this time Nature Boy Paul Lee to join in the conversation. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Good to hear from all you guys. That was a cluster, man, I'm telling you. That was the biggest cluster. I told Teddy Long 2 months ago, right when all this came down, when he started booking all the guys, I said, Teddy, this is going to be a cluster. And he said, why you say? I said, man, brother, look at the card he's throwing. I said, as it got closer just a week ago, me and Teddy was talking. I said, Teddy, I'm telling you, man, just like I said then, this is a cluster. I said, I've been running shows for 26 years. I've been wrestling for 34. And I said, you cannot put, this guy told me it was his first show. And I said, you can't put this many guys on a show. And I said, one, your poster looked like shit. I mean, he made a poster that looked like, it was no pictures or anything. The first one, he had photos on it, and he got in trouble with WWE because they contacted him and told him, he told me, they said they were going to cease and desist because he took the pictures right off the WWE's website. I said, man, you can't do that. Take the pictures off of Google. And if they ain't got no copyright marks on them, you can use them. I said, but there are plenty of pictures of all the guys you can use. You have to be professional. I said, are you ever done any business before? And the guy told me, I got sponsors. I got this covered. I said, well, you got a pretty, lumpy payout here from what I can see. And the reason he booked me, he kept on wanting me to bring in Ric Flair. And I gave him a price for Rick, and I said, he kept trying to Jew me down. I said, man, this ain't no freaking flea market. We're professional. I said, I work, Flair work. I said, we draw, we do the gimmick. I said, but if you don't like that price, contact his agent, Melinda. Be happy to give you the number. Well, he called me back a few days later and said, yeah, she wanted $25,000 for Rick alone. I said, yep, it's business. If you can't afford it, don't book them. And but then just the day before when I kept on, because the whole week before I kept on, where's my room at? Where's my room going to be? I don't want no freaking flea-bitten room, I said, I gave you a good deal, and I'm coming in. I give 110%. I bump my ass off when I work. And I said, I want a good room. My wife be with me. I got two handicapped kids, and that travels with me when I'm within a couple 100 miles. And I said, if anything, it's going to be just a little weekend trip, And so anyway, it was like the day before I got the info on the room. I get to the room. The first night was paid for, but that next night, after everything happened there at the freaking Sweat Fest there, I get back to the motel room, and the lady tells me his credit card got declined. We got your room is locked out. Well, all my crap was in there. So I called the officer, Officer Chris Johnson, the one that he gave me his personal number, and I said, hey, look, I can't get a hold of Greg. And I said, can you have him call me back? He said, I would make him call you back right now. So he called me back, and I said, look, Greg, hey, man, I'm up here at the motel. I said, you're lucky. I mean, I did not blow up on you down there. I said, we all got freaking rubber checks. And I said, now I get to my freaking room, and I'm locked out. Oh, I'll be there within 2 or 3 hours. I said, ain't no bull crap, man. I ain't sitting here for 2 or 3 hours. You coming now, or I'm coming back down there, and I'm going to come and kick your ass. I said, I ain't trying to be sarcastic, but I said, I am mad at this time. I mean, I try to keep nice. I try not to cuss the guy. I mean, I try to keep real professional. I said, but he's very lucky, honestly. I mean, because, I mean, I know there's some Christian guys there, you know, and everybody kept trying to keep cool, and you know, Tully was beyond. Tully, I saw him in the hallway. He just walked off and said, "I'm just going back to the room." You know, they ain't gonna be no money, so I'm going back to the room. I mean, that, you know, these guys, man, like Dale and some of these guys, you know, all you guys, man, you was relying on the money, and I mean, I was too. Here's the deal with me. Do I need the money? I don't need the money. I'm blessed. Like I said, I want my money because it was a principle of the matter. When you work for somebody, you figure you're getting what somebody tell you, you know, and that's my deal. And but I felt bad for all the guys that was relying on the money. You know, they do this, and they want their money, you know, and a bunch of the indie guys even, you know, they all came to me because the guy came to me to the side and said, hey, Paul, I know you got money. Can you loan me some money? I said, bull crap, man. I want my money. I ain't giving you a penny. I want my money. And so then he got me to the side and said, hey, can you just go out there and run the show, and any money you make from the door you can have it? I said, no. I'm not getting. I said, I already get enough heat, you know. People, I mean, I'm profiled out there. People going, you know. I said, that thing on the internet, somebody be saying that I was in partners with you or some shit. I said, so no. I said, so some of the other indie guys said, like, oh, would you wrestle, or would you, we all the indie guys wanted to keep putting on a show, and they said whatever money they would all split, and then that way some of them at least get $10 or $20 or something for gas. And I said, well, man, you know what, y'all need the money. Y'all guys do it and split the money, you know. And I said, and then the officer said as long as that Greg was not involved in it, they could do it. So, I said, I'm going to keep an eye on this clown in the back, make sure he don't leave, because we're going, you know, if we all get checks, at least we all got something, proof to prosecute him, you know. I said, if we don't get nothing, I said, ain't no proof, you can't. I said, there's a couple of laws here that I got 6 businesses in Georgia, and I said, I know the laws when it comes to taking checks from people. I said, here's the deal. If it's under $500, it's a misdemeanor. Over $500, it's a felony. I said, he's going to have a lot of felonies on it. And I said, but there's another issue. I said, that's all called criminal charges. It's all criminal charges if he writes all these checks and they do not go to the bank. I said, but come Monday morning, if he's smarter than we think he is, and he goes and pays and sought payment on every check, for they never go through the bank. I said, he did not commit a crime then. It's a civil matter. Each person will have to go back to that town, pay $92 to file a civil matter. I said, so we just have to play him and see how smart he is, you know. And, well, a bunch of the checks I found out already came through. The last bunch of checks, one of them I got, was wrote from his mom's account. Well, I went to him right when I noticed it in front. I took the officer and I went to Greg right then and said, look, man, this check is from some man and woman's name. It ain't, you know, and you signed it, Greg Green. He said, oh, it's my mom's account. I'm on the account. I said, okay. In front of this officer, you're saying that in front of this officer that you're on it. If you're not on this account, I said, you're going to be prosecuted for fraud. Well, come find out he was not on that account. So anybody that got a check from his mom's account, she done went. The officer told me yesterday, he called me and said that his mom even going to file charges on him. So as of yesterday, I think there was 14 felonies on him. I don't know how many misdemeanors, and he had all kind of. Now, here's my opinion on the whole matter. Here's what as a businessman, I'm going to tell you what my opinion is. This is just Paul logic. I think honestly, the guy did not intend to screw our money. I think he thought, well, hell, it's going to be a money maker. It's going to be a get rich overnight wrestling show that I'm going to make all this money because I got all these names on it. But, I mean, key one, do not ever promote a show if you ain't got capital to back it up, because you cannot rely on ticket sales. First of all, here's his problem. He didn't advertise. I mean, his poster was, like I told Dutch Mantel, I said, did you see that poster? It looked like shit. He said, it wasn't that good. And I mean, second of all, nobody in town knew that there was a wrestling show out in the middle of Egypt, out there in an old school gym. The lady at the desk at the motel told me the only time they really use that school is at Halloween because they had some kind of big haunted house. And I could tell because the whole school looked like something haunted. You know what I mean? I mean, it was like the crap windows broke out. I mean,
so I don't mean to interrupt you, Paul, but I want to ask, how did the guy get a permit in the first place to open the place up?
Well, way I found out is he didn't. They wasn't no permit. They let him use the school. It was like, barely nothing because he was booked at the in Dublin at the fairgrounds. Which he told me the reason he changed them venues, he needed a bigger venue because he had all them names. Well, the fairground, I found out, it was so big that they had circus there, So the deal is, though, the lady, one of the ladies at the motel where I was at, says she was, she didn't realize it till after all this came about, but she knew him from he married into the family a few years ago and screwed his aunt out money and all kind of stuff. But the fairgrounds, after they found out who it was running it, would not even rent him the building. So there was some big, right off the bat, there was some big old mess up with money with the venue and everything. So that's how come he didn't get the fairgrounds. So anyway, he got this school because it was like, way I got it cheap, like a couple $100 to use. It was real cheap. But this whole deal is, I mean, if you went out there, you can ask Dale or any of the guys, if you drove out there, it was in like you're going nowhere, and when you got to it, you thought it was an old abandoned building. It didn't even have a sign at the gate. It was like, and here's my opinion on business. I do a lot of shows. I had my big show up in Ringo in May that I do every year, and we sold it out 1,200 seats, and it was here's the deal. A business with no sign is a sign of no business. I don't care if you go to the freaking Civic Center tomorrow and you got freaking Hulk Hogan in there, and he will draw, and you got him in there, you won't have no fans if people don't know about it. So, it was right off the bat, it was poor promoting from him from the get-go. I don't think he had common sense how to run it. He just thought, I honestly think he just thought, man, I'm going to get rich off this, because he kept on calling me back and wanted to know if I would get Ric Flair to come cheaper or this. I said, look, man, you already got too many guys on your card, and I said, here's the deal. If you do want Rick, here's the deal. You have to send me half the money up front, and 1 week before the show, you have to send the other half, or he won't come. Oh, no, I'm going to pay everybody that night. And so I told Teddy then, man, that was a red flag right there. When he said he's going to wait and pay all the boys that night, I went ahead and agreed to it. That was fine, but I said, man, I can't believe some of the other guys agreed to this, like Arn or Ted DiBiase or, some of the guys that probably was getting, Tully, the bigger money. And I guess the money from his ticket sale that he did get, I guess that's what he paid for their plane tickets for, It's just, man, this is a cluster. You ain't saw nothing like this in years. I mean, usually if somebody, maybe one or two people might get, left out on the pay, or but you don't never see the whole freaking show. I mean, the guy's lucky, man, because I tell you, Sonny went out there to him, and when I was right beside Sonny when she got her check, and she told him, she said, and I'm going to quote it here, it got a little cussing in it, but she said, look, I'm going to make you this deal. If this check don't clear, I will come out and kill your ass. She said, I went to prison for 3 years for beating up my nets. I choked him till he almost died, and she said, I will come back here and kill you and beat you up. And, and he was
Paul, without any other, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to bring on another person that was there. He's Buff, and he's the stuff. Buff Bagwell, welcome to the show.
Woo! Hey guys, hey, what's up? Woo!
Hey.
Woo!
Sorry about that, Buff. I didn't recognize your number. Sorry about that.
That's okay, bud. That's okay. What you guys up to?
Not too much. Just talking about this cluster crap, I like to call it, down in lovely Georgia.
No. I actually listened to Dale's and was listening to Paul's too. It was just. What I couldn't get over to the guide, it was too deep to go over. I'm not sure if this was mentioned when I clicked off, was, the guy kept saying something about the money was the tickets had been bought online or something. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, are the fans online? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, where are the fans at? I said, okay, let's say, regardless, let's say you're telling the truth, and there's money, there's $50,000 of fans that paid for the thing. Where are they at? Where are the fans at? So I just really believe it. Really, to be honest with you, I think it all goes back to it wasn't promoted properly. It wasn't like Dale said. It was in a horrible building. It was I was dressing out in the hallway, not on purpose because there wasn't any room in the room with the little bitty AC. And I think it actually, believe it or not, may have been a touch cooler out there because at least the doors were open and there was a breeze. But I went and looked over. I'm not sure if Dale and Paul went and looked over at the wrestling room. It could have only held 500 people, I think, standing room only. So I don't know. There wasn't a possibility to make the kind of money that needed to be made there, period. So the guy, and like I said, the guy had to know that, not just because of where it was at, which it was in a horrible place and all that. Like Dale said, it was really bad. But there wasn't any room to even, if they'd had a sold-out crowd. So what our decision at the end was, and I was sitting right next to Dale in the cars. Greg's in the car with Dale, and I got a decision to make. I can sit there, wrestle, stay 4 more hours and wrestle and get a check. Or I can get a check right now, and both times I'm going to hope that it's good. So I took it upon myself. It's 5:15. There were no more than 50 fans there with a card like that, and it had already been told, like Dale was told 12-1. I was told to be there at 3. But right there, why? Why didn't he tell me to be there at 12? He told me to be there at 3 o'clock. So I think it was just I don't know what it was, but like I said, none of it equals enough money to pay for everybody that was there, period. And as soon as I'm telling Johnny Swinger all this in the hallway, and as soon as I'm telling him that's when I saw Arn come out, and because it must have been about 2 hours into Dale being there when the Arn thing happened, because it was about 20 minutes into me being there when it happened. So around that 2:30, around that 3 o'clock mark is when Arn, got him in the hallway, and it was definitely a problem. And then I just instantly started packing my stuff up. So I knew it was kind of over, and I was gonna kind of, wait it out and see what could happen, and ask the policeman and all that, and see what happened. But I felt overall, like everybody else felt, it was pretty much done.
Well, I'm kind of surprised that guy didn't get his butt kicked. I mean, because you got a lot of
nowadays, Brian, you got to realize if I walk, and a lot of people don't know this, but I've been in enough trouble to know this. If I walked up and poked you in the chest, if I touch a finger on your chest, you could instantly call a policeman over, and that is simple battery, and I go to jail.
Yeah,
sure.
That's true. That's true.
That is a fact. That is a 1,000% fact. Trust me. And I've been caught on it.
I want to ask y'all about something real quick. You touched base on Arn Anderson. I've heard that Arn Anderson, basically from what Sonny said and a few others, that Arn Anderson almost killed the guy. I mean, he put him in a chokehold or something. Is that correct, or am I wrong on that?
I didn't see that. Did anybody else see that?
I don't. If I did,
I didn't see. Matter of fact, I talked to Tony Hunter today, and Tony said that he was in the car with Greg driving to the bank or driving somewhere to get the checkbook, I think. And Arn said if the cop wasn't behind him, the cop followed him. And it was kind of I don't know if Dale and Paul know this, but there was kind of a Barney Fife type cop there, of all things, too. At one stage.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not sure if Dale or Paul know this, but the cop squats down beside. First, he comes out and buys a picture from me, which I've never made an officer pay for a picture, but he pulled money out, but I ain't going to say no. So, of course, I took the money and said, thank you, sir, and appreciate that. And he squats down beside my table, and he looks at me and he says, hey, Buff, do you got my back? And I went, what? And he goes, do you have my back? Like, the hallway was behind his back, and I was like, yeah, buddy. I said, I got your back, thinking, what is he talking about? So he was a little bit of a Barney Fife type cop. He follows them over there and wherever they go to get checkbook or whatever, and then come back, and then from there. But Tony said that in the car, he said that if the cop wasn't behind him, he'd have beat him up, But nowadays, man, you just can't do that, you knock a guy out, you're going to go to jail, you're going to pay a fine, the guy's going to sue you. I mean, it's just, there's no way to win, there's just no way to win. Even with this check I got, even with this bad check I got, I've called the bank. There's zero leverage we've got. We've got no leverage. I thought $500 or more was a felony and all that. My banker told me, wad it up, throw it away. If you ain't got a contract with this guy and da-da-da-da-da and something in writing and something notarized, he said, throw it in the trash can. He says, more trouble than it's worth. He said, just forget it. And it just blows my mind that people can do checks like that and do people like that, but they can. And it just don't mean anything. That check don't mean anything. So the guy just ended up, screwing people over.
One thing that's sad to me, though, guys, is, I heard about Ole Anderson was in a wheelchair now, and I heard about one-man gang came all the way down there from Kentucky, I believe it was, when his house is flooded and everything, came down there to, the fest, and then that guy did that to him. I mean, I just think that's a crying shame. I think all y'all should have got paid, and I can't figure people out.
I really, really, honestly, thank God, I can count on one hand that something like this has happened, and this still fits on one hand, believe it or not. One hand, this Greg Green guy fits on one hand still, and all five of them, though, or all three or four or five of them, all of them hurt tremendously bad, like it hurt all of us, because we've all been screwed at least once or twice. But and it hurts really bad when you get hurt, when you get screwed all the way. I don't know if Paul E. or Dale know this, but I came down to do an autograph session for him 2 weeks ago at a Sonny's barbecue, and he paid me $500 to sign autographs, and as soon as I walked in the door, handed it to me. So I thought, God, this guy's professional. He's with it. As soon as I walked in the door, he hands me $500 for an autograph signing. You know, so I was real excited, and then here's this big gigantic card. I said, he must have some deep pockets or something, you know, paid everybody right away. He paid Johnny Swinger $200, I think, for a signing, which that's unheard of money. No offense, just being honest, but that's unheard of money for a Johnny Swinger to get that kind of money for a signing. You just don't do that kind of stuff. So the guy was very good to us, and I thought, hey, maybe he's just really trying to treat us well, and he did. And we ate for free at Sonny's. He had a really good name at Sonny's Barbecue. And then something may have went awry during that even because that was in Dublin. And then all of a sudden, my wife goes, hey, are you in Dudley? Are you in Dudley, Georgia? I go, no, I'm in Dublin. She goes, you're in Dudley. I said, baby, I know what town it's called. It's called Dublin. So she takes me in on the computer, and it says Dudley. So I don't know, maybe because it's closed, they just said Dublin. But even when I did his promo for him, I said Dublin, Georgia, the Facebook promo I did for him. So I don't know if something happened with that along the way, too. But after the barbecue.
Come to find out, Marcus, I don't want to interrupt you, but come to find out, he sent me a message. This is before he had deleted his account. Because we had Tracy Smothers, Dr. Tom Pritchard, and Sonny on the show to promote, you know, the upcoming show in Dublin. And he sent me a message, and he said, I don't know if you know this or not, but don't forget when you got Tracy Smothers on that the show is going to be in Dudley, Georgia, because we got a lot of fans that are wanting tickets and stuff, and it's going to be a bigger venue. That's what he said. But apparently it wasn't a bigger venue. So, that's so.
Paul,
I mean,
that's what he told you too.
Yeah, he told because it was first booked at the fairgrounds at Dublin, and then he called me and said it was changed to Dudley because he got a bigger venue. And then I found out, what do you mean, bigger, man? When we got into town, I said, man, gee, the reason why the fairgrounds wouldn't rent him the place because of his credentials.
Right.
So that's how come he got that Dudley crowd.
Right. I knew something had to happen because, like I said.
But it was.
Go ahead, Marcus.
In Dublin. Yeah, it was Dublin.
Yeah. It was definitely in Dublin at the beginning. Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say that I even heard that there wasn't any signs to direct y'all to the event. There wasn't even no signs or nothing.
And like I said, keep this in mind. This is the last thing that made me make my decision. This is the last thing. We're sitting there. It's me, the sheriff, Johnny Swinger in my car, me in my car, the sheriff standing beside my car, Dale Wilkes in his car, Greg's in Dale's car. And the sheriff shows me on his phone what was in the paper. And Dale was told 12-1. I was told 3-5, or 12-5 or something. Dale was. I was told 3-5. And then the guy shows me a thing that was in the paper that said, live wrestling coming to town, Legends Fest, all that, da-da-da-da. It was a real small little clipping, nothing fancy, no pictures or nothing, very cheap. But still, it had the times and the address and where it was at and all that. And it said 5:15. For some reason, it was weird. It was like 5:15 to 7:15 was the meet and greet, and then the wrestling started at 8. And so I happened to look down at the clock on my car, and it was 5:14. And I'm thinking, where's everybody at? Where's everybody at? If he advertised this even halfway correctly with that kind of card, you're going to draw 600, 700, 800 people by pure accident. And so I don't think I saw more than 75 people all day. So something definitely happened wrong, and I don't know exactly what the point was or what happened. I really don't know what happened. It was just too weird. But, I do got to check here. This was not worth anything.
Yeah, the first poster he made said meet and greet 5 to 7 on it, the first poster, and then when he changed the poster the second time, that's when he told me he got information from WWE that they were going to do a cease and desist because he put their pictures on it, and he said, I'm going to change it from 12 to 5. Can you do a meet and greet from 12 to 5? And I said, well, yeah. I said, and the night before, actually, I called him. I said, hey, how's ticket sales going? He said, man, I done sold over 400 tickets. I said, well, what did they buy? He said, well, most of them are the $20 seats, you know. But even at 400 seats, at $20, that's just $8,000. He had well more than an $8,000 card, you know. And but they wasn't nowhere near 400 people there all day long. I mean, you could count them 4 times, and they wouldn't been there for 400. There was probably 100 people out there at the show when it finally, you know, when the whole thing, and that's people's family and everything, you know. So he could not even do a good, enough money to make the card, you know. Just like Buff said, there wasn't enough people there to even come close to paying the talent.
No, there really wasn't.
Wow.
And that's when finally we said, look, we can sit here and wrestle in front of what looks like maybe 100 people and still have a check at the end of this. Because he's saying he ain't going to have no money until Monday, or we can get out of here now with a check in our hand. And it was a no-brainer. Either way, it was going to be a check, and either way, we pretty sure we were going to get screwed. So we just saved ourselves 4 hours of torture and, you know, having to wrestle in the ring and come on home. I heard this throughout the show. I thought there was 100 people there, and they still wrestled the show. And I don't know how the money was divvied up or whatever, but I heard a couple different stories. I heard they split the money up with the boys. I heard he took the money. I've heard a couple different stories on that, but I wasn't there.
Yeah,
well,
I left
see.
before the show got over.
What'd you hear, Paul, on the money on the show?
The money was supposed to go. Yeah, the money was supposed to be split with all the indie guys, and they wanted me to wrestle. I said, man, look, just split the money with them boys, you know, because some of them said, man, if we can just get $20 for gas, I said, give it to the boys, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want nothing to do with it, you know. I don't want no more part of the cluster. It was a freaking this clusterfuck. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Well, guys, I wanna thank you so much for being on. I see we got about 2 minutes left, and thank you so much for being on this series finale of the WSE Lounge. We'll be continuing though on the page. We'll be doing interviews when we go to the wrestling shows. I'll be doing interviews with the different wrestlers and stuff.
For sure. Stay in touch with us. Paul,
I sure
Paul,
will.
It's good to hear your voice, buddy.
You too, buddy. Good to see you, buddy.
Okay, you guys be good. Y'all guys have a good night.
Take care, Buff, and take
Brian.
care, Paul.
Woo!
Good night.
Thank you. Woo!
Woo! Woo!
This is Mike Mooneyham. I want to tell all you fans out there, don't miss the WSE Lounge. You'll be glad you caught this great show.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jason Boyd, along with my co-host, Brian Vaughn, and welcome to the WSE Lounge. Our guest at this time, ECW original, former two-time ECW Tag Team Champion, two-time WWE Cruiserweight Champion, ladies and gentlemen, Little Guido, also known as Nunzio. Well, welcome to the show.
Nunzio, Little Guido, Damian Stone, James Stone. I had a whole host of names for the past 20-something years, so call me anything you like.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on, Guido. It's an honor to have you.
No, it's a pleasure to be here. What's going on, guys?
In high school, you competed in football. In 1989, you were undefeated, untitled, and unscored upon. Would you say that you wanted to be a pro football player or a pro wrestler?
No, all my life I always wanted to be a pro wrestler. I played on the football team. I actually was a starter on that team. I played halfback alongside with Bobby Gallagher and T.J. Ford. Yes, that was my senior year. We were 10-0. We went undefeated, untitled, unscored upon, which I don't think happened since then. But no. As far as football, I don't think I ever was good enough to be a pro football player. I was captain of my wrestling team when I wrestled in high school and middle school and everything. But as far as wrestling, I always wanted to be a professional wrestler ever since I was 9 years old. My parents used to my father used to take me to Madison Square Garden. I was actually in Madison Square Garden for WrestleMania 1, and then I performed in Madison Square Garden for WrestleMania 20. which whoever knew 20 years later, my parents and family would have been there watching me as, my father brought me to WrestleMania 1. So a little bit of history there.
That is an incredible story, Guido.
And another thing about being Sicilian, Italian, my father was Sicilian. He was a big Bruno Sammartino fan. I don't know if you got that growing up, but I definitely heard about Bruno an awful lot growing up.
Well, yeah. Well, Bruno was more or less the 60s and 70s, but I wasn't really watching it. I started watching when I was like 9 years old, and that's when I first started watching. One of the first guys I ever saw was on Channel 9. He used to come on at midnight here in New York, and it was like Superstar Billy Graham and Chief Jay Strongbow, the Wild Samoans. Those are the guys. And then as I got into wrestling and even older, then I started to learn about guys that were before me. I didn't know with the internet and stuff, you could find out people that wrestled in the 40s. So as far as Bruno Sammartino, he was kind of retired by the time I started actually watching wrestling. But then when David Sammartino started coming around in the late 80s, Bruno came back to WWE and then was managing him. And, of course, then the internet came out and you were able to look people up and stuff. Of course, now, I know pretty much everybody from looking people up. And, I was lucky enough to meet Bruno Sammartino on a few occasions when I was actually in I guess I could say I'm never in WWE when I met him, because at those years, I was there from 2002 to 2000, basically 9. Then went back it was off for a year, went back for a year. But he was at that time he was not having on good terms with WWE, I guess. But through the independents, I've met Bruno Sammartino a few times. So that was always like a feather in my cap. I don't think he knew who I was, but I knew who he was.
Absolutely.
Do you believe that if ECW was still around today, that you and Tony Mama Luke would be one of the top tag teams in the world?
Well, I don't know if we were top tag teams in the world. Right before it went out of business, we were, we were the tag team champions. That's, of course, half the people left for the WWE at that time, and there wasn't many people left. But, we were happy enough to be there. And if it wasn't for the WWE, I would have never got my opportunity with. If it wasn't for the ECW, I would never got my opportunity with WWE. Of course, going to ECW in late '95, I met Paul Heyman, and he packed me a little Guido with J.T. Smith in the very beginning, and then a whole host of other partners leading into Tony Mama Luke towards probably the last year. So that was the great part of my life. I was never on TV before until then, and it was like a cult following, and I even knew up until this day what ECW would ever become. I still hear the words. I still hear the names. I still, even when I was in WWE, Vince McMahon bought it at the time, and I was part of that when they brought I was already there wrestling as Nunzio anyway, but that's when they brought Tony Mama Luke back and Balls Mahoney and like all the other guys, and Tommy Dreamer and they brought Paul E back, and he was running ECW at that time. So, it just, like I said, if it wasn't for ECW, I don't know if I would have ever been a part of WWE, which is also a dream come true. As a wrestling fan, you always want to get to the top. If you're a football fan, you want to get to the NFL. If you're a baseball fan, you want to get to the major leagues. If you're a wrestling fan, eventually you'd like to work for Vince McMahon one day, because that's that's the way the top you can go. So.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I wanted to bring up something you was talking about. You and Tony Mama Luke. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you and Tony Mama Luke also wrestle for Ring of Honor as a tag team?
Yes, we did. Right before I went to after ECW closed down, we did Independence, and then me and Tony did work for Ring of Honor together as a tag team, working with all them guys. And then what happened was I ended up getting signed by WWE, and that's when me and Tony actually had a split at that time. He didn't get signed. So we actually had a little feud. Gabe Sapolsky had to put us in a feud against each other, and then then I left for WWE and he stayed there, and then he didn't hook up with me again till Vince McMahon brought back ECW. So
okay.
We did wrestle for Ring of Honor. That had to be in like 2000, beginning of 2002, because I went to WWE in 2002. So that same year, I was wrestling in Ring of Honor then. I wrestled pretty much for all the major groups except WCW. All the independents, I wrestled for Ring of Honor. I wrestled for TNA for, that was in a long term. That was for about a year or so. Then went back and forth with some pay-per-views when they were doing stuff. Of course, I wrestled for ECW. I wrestled for WWE, So I wrestled for the TNA in India. when they brought that back. So I wrestled for all the major ones, but WCW I was never able to get to, but because I stayed in ECW, and basically ECW and WCW closed down around the same time.
Interesting.
Absolutely. What was the transition like from Eastern Championship Wrestling to Extreme Championship Wrestling?
Well, I wrestled, believe it or not, I used to wrestle in Eastern Championship Wrestling before, actually, Taz, Tommy Dreamer, Chris Candido, all those guys. I started wrestling there with Tommy Cairo in 1993 when we used to wrestle in the Marketplace in South Philadelphia and the Aztecha Club, and Todd Gordon actually brought us in. And what happened was I wrestled there for about a year or so, and then in like 1994 I got hooked up with UWFI. I went to Japan and did shoot wrestling for about 2 years. And when I was down in Japan, that's when Eastern Championship Wrestling, then that's when Taz and Tommy Dreamer started working down there. Then they changed it into Extreme Championship Wrestling. And when I came back in the end of 95, beginning of 96, it was actually already Extreme Championship Wrestling. So I started there in like 92, actually, I guess you could say, for Eastern Championship Wrestling, working with Todd Gordon. We were just doing sports bars. It was me, Johnny Hotbody, Larry Winters, Tony Stetson, Jimmy Snuka, Don Morocco. It was all of us. And then, I was wrestling there as Damian Stone. And then, like I said, I got an opportunity to go to Japan and work for UWFI, which was my first time ever. I was wrestling in sports bars. Next thing you know, when I was in Japan, I was wrestling in front of 20,000 people in, Sumo Hall and all these places. And then when UWFI closed down, I came to ECW, and at that time it already kind of transitioned. So I missed a little bit of the transition. I mean, I was there from pretty much the very beginning when it first started to be Extreme Championship Wrestling, but they were already going for about a year or so. And I knew Tommy Dreamer and Tommy Dreamer and all them. I knew Tommy Dreamer and all them before I went to Eastern Championship Wrestling, because when I first started, I used to wrestle for Mario Savoldi, Tommy Savoldi, and I used to wrestle with Taz, Tommy Dreamer, Chris Candido, Tom Brandy, Flex Lavender. I worked with all them guys. I got to know them. And then they were doing independence, and then I went to Eastern Championship Wrestling for a little while. They weren't there yet. And then I got hooked up in Japan, and while I was in Japan is when Dreamer and Taz and all them kind of circulated into ECW. Then when I came home from Japan, when it closed down, I knew Taz and Tommy Dreamer, and I gave them a call, and they said, "Come on down, we'll introduce you to Paul Heyman," and that's how that worked.
Wow. Now, to follow up on that question, did you enjoy working for Paul Heyman?
Yeah, I enjoyed working. He was a little bit of a maniac, but yeah, I enjoyed working for him. He gave me many opportunities. I mean, a lot of guys have some gripes, and they could. And there was a time there where, when people always said, "Oh, he wasn't paying us." Yeah, he was missing checks, but he wasn't missing them consecutive. If you got paid, you got paid, and then something would happen, you didn't get paid, and you didn't get paid, then you would get paid for whatever was happening. But the payoff for me was, ECW closed down. I worked the last show. It sucked for everybody, obviously. We all lost our jobs and stuff. And everybody kind of had to go their own ways, and we all went our own ways. And, Paulie went to WWE. He did bring people back periodically as he could. And I was lucky enough to be one of the ones that he was able to get me into the WWE, because when he became the head SmackDown writer, when he had an idea for me, and at the time, Jamie Noble, and even though I tag teamed in a match for a while, then he put me with the Cruiserweight division. So, a lot of people do have gripes with him, for whatever reasons, and they might, have the right to have it. But, for me, and it's not that I'm dogging him, because right now I'm out of the wrestling business. I don't need, I'm not being nice to go back to WWE, because I have a great job. I got a retirement system, so I'm in a retirement. I don't need to go to WWE. Do I miss it? Absolutely. But, I'm just saying the truth. I don't have people ask me that all the time about him. He was good to me. Things went wrong in ECW at the end, or whatever happened. Where they say they were trying to get us deals. Were they trying to get us deals? I don't know. But and he's not kissing his ass. I got no gripe for him, because it wasn't for me. I wouldn't have been in ECW, and I wouldn't have been in WWE. I wouldn't have traveled the world. I wouldn't have made the money I made. And as time goes on, you got to learn that sometimes it's over, and you got to just move on into the real world. That's just what you have to do. And sometimes guys can't do that.
Absolutely. And now that brings us to Barely Legal 97 first ECW pay-per-view. What was the atmosphere in the locker room and the inner goings of ECW at that time when the big event came around?
Well, that was a nerve-wracking because we almost lost it, as you guys probably know. There was a big thing with the mass transit guy, with all the blood, with New Jack and all that stuff, and a couple other things that we almost made the pay-per-view. That pay-per-view almost didn't go on the air. You know, so like we really didn't know if it was happening, if it wasn't happening, and pretty much until the last couple of weeks. You know, they almost put the kibosh on that. So, but at the time, I remember Paulie had a big meeting with all the guys, and if you look at that Barbed Wire City, is it, or one of those, you actually see Paulie talking to all of us, standing on the stairs, getting us ready. And I was lucky enough to do a dark match. I wasn't actually on that pay-per-view. I did a dark match. I think it was me and Tommy Rich, or Tracy, or Chetty, or something. I forget exactly what it was. But, everybody was pretty psyched. It was when it finally went off, it was the beginning of something. Here we were on MSG and on small stations, and here we were able to be actually on pay-per-view. So we thought at the time too it could boost the company and hopefully get on a bigger channel and hopefully get more pay-per-views, which we ended up doing a lot more pay-per-views. We ended up doing like 13, which actually I'm one of the very few guys. After the first two, I was on every single pay-per-view after that, but I was on every pay-per-view card because I did dark match the first, Barely Legal. Then Hardcore Heaven in Fort Lauderdale, I did a dark match. I think it was me and Tracy versus Balls and Axel in the dark. And then once we hit the third pay-per-view, which I believe was November to November, I worked every single pay-per-view until they closed down. So I was lucky enough to actually be on the cards for every single pay-per-view. The first two nights weren't on. First two shows, I didn't make TV. I was on the dark matches, but it was great. But just saying that, it was exciting. I was a young guy. Yeah, I was just getting on TV. Yeah, I was being on pay-per-view. Was starting to live a dream, and then so for me, it's great. Everybody has their own opinions. Everybody could, say whatever they want. I'm saying for me, it was a great experience. It was a great opportunity for me, and it led to bigger and better things for me. I wrestled in Madison Square Garden. Like I said, I grew up in New York. I used to go there for hockey games, and not just like I said, I wrestled in WrestleMania 20 there, but I wrestled in the Garden, 50,000 times, not 50,000, but many times. Wrestled all over New York City. I wrestled in Nassau Coliseum. I mean, these are just things that for your own experience, it's great. How many people get to do that? And I did it multiple times over the course of an 8-year career.
A lot of
times I do interviews. A lot of people always, a lot of times people are always like, oh, we want to do shoot interviews and stuff. I don't really like doing shoot interviews because honestly, I have no one to bury. And people say, oh, you don't want to bury this guy because you want to go back here, you want to go back there. No, I don't want to go back anywhere. I just don't have. Nobody never really did anything so horrible to me that I need to go out there and bury them. That's why people always say, but anytime somebody don't bury somebody, they're always like, oh, you don't want to bury them because you don't want to burn bridges. Well, it's never good to burn a bridge. But nobody did anything so bad to me that I need to go exploit them.
I definitely have a lot of respect for you for that.
Want to let the fans know really quick, if you have any questions for Little Guido, call in at 773-897-6289 and press 1 to be in the hostess view, and we'll be glad to get you on with Little Guido to ask a question. I want to say, Little Guido, that I have always admired your character of Little Guido. You were one of my favorites in ECW. And a question that I wanted to ask you was, who was your favorite opponent in ECW?
I guess in the ECW, I had a lot of favorites. It's always hard to say that, but of course, even from what the fans always said, I loved wrestling with Tajiri and Super Crazy. We supposedly from the fans, I think we had some real good 3-ways and even singles versus, me and Tajiri or me and Super Crazy. Also, I did a good 2-month loop of Rob Van Dam. It was a painful 2-month loop, but we did it. And, that was a lot of fun, too, because getting in the ring with him, with the fan reaction with him and the fans loving him so much, it just made for great atmosphere. But I would say, but then, like I said, Jerry Lynn, I had real good matches with Jerry Lynn, so it's hard to just pick one. It really is hard to just pick one. But, I would have to say, for me, I would say mostly it would be Tajiri and Super Crazy and some of the 3-way dances that we used to have.
Awesome. Speaking of that, we go to ECW One Night Stand in the WWE 2005. Your opponents, Tajiri super crazy on this huge stage. What was it like?
Well, I think that was the Hammerstein Ballroom, you mean, right?
Right.
That was 2005. Well, I mean, like I said, I was at that time, 2005. I was in WWE already for 3 years, so that was, that was really cool because, it really that one show, that one night stand, actually brought back the whole atmosphere of ECW, coming back to the Hammerstein Ballroom, hearing those rabid fans. I was going from ECW to WWE. It's a lot different. ECW, you used to get that rapid fire from the people. We always used to have 2,500, 3,000. It's totally different atmosphere sometimes when you go into an arena like when I wrestled at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. It's hard to get that rapid, just because you're so used to that them so close up on you. Now you're in front of 25,000 people, where people you look up, you can't even see the end of the rafters. It's still great and it's still a huge pop and it's still awesome, but it's just a different feel when you're in that smaller, close knit environment. And especially where the ECW fans were, that was great because that brought back some great memories. I think because of that show is actually why they ended up bringing back ECW and bringing all the guys back and, trying to revamp it. But like anything, it's very hard to do that. It's very hard to bring back something and let it happen the way it did. ECW, nobody ever expected that stuff to happen. We just were doing what we were doing, and we ended up having this cult following. And it just grew into something. It really did. It grew into something special for all of us. We all loved it, especially guys like Van Dam. Van Dam's one of the guys that had the opportunity to leave for WWE and actually barked at it and didn't want to go right away. He ended up going when basically the place closed down. But that just goes to show you where it was a great environment. All the guys really loved each other. So to bring back that one show, it really felt like at home again. But then when they brought back the ECW and we were running all the arenas 2-3 times a week again, things were changing. Writers were getting involved differently. It wasn't run just by Paulie anymore. And, obviously things changed. And as you could see, after a year and a half or wherever it was, they ended up folding the whole thing up and then taking off from there. And now, you know what? It's kind of like NXT. It wasn't like they wanted to come up with this NXT thing and they think it was going to grow into what it is now. NXT is phenomenal now. The guys they have, it grew into something. It's something. They had Deep South Wrestling. They had the whatever from Louisville first, then they went to Deep South, and then they got the Performance Center, and then they got this NXT going. And like I said, that happened. And to me, I feel like that little by little, that just kept getting better and better and grew, and they started bringing these real great independent guys in, and NXT grew into what NXT is right now. And I enjoy watching NXT. This Cruiserweight Classic. I think it's great for a lot of the guys. I mean, guys like Tony Nese, who I worked on the independents many a times and wondered to myself for the past 2 years, why the hell is this guy not in NXT? Why is he not in WWE? And a whole host of other guys. So this NXT is giving great opportunities to a lot of guys. And I'll tell you what, it's given a great opportunity to a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, was Brian Kendrick. Me and Brian Kendrick started on the road together, first day in the WWE. Brian Kendrick was young, got to WWE at a young age, and I watched his interview that he did talking about, like, this is like a second chance for him, and he said it himself about his first time around. Well, I really can understand what you're saying because, and you could ask Brian about it, I lived with his first time around. He was an awesome competitor, an awesome wrestler, but I think at times, like Tony Atlas has said, too much too soon. I think he was just too young. He was 23 years old. Next thing you know, he was on TV. Maybe, I don't want to say this wrong about him, maybe didn't appreciate what he actually had, at that young age, and he was phenomenal. He was doing great, and, after a few years, I was always saying to myself, like, what's the matter? You're doing great. And at times he was, miserable at times. And I'm like, well, you're here, but I think, and then he ended up getting released and that was it. And, he still kept on good terms because he's a great guy. But again, going back to my story is hearing that little interview he did in NXT when they asked him about his opportunity and he appreciates his second opportunity. He even said it about his first time around. And guys deserve second chances. Some guys deserve third chances, And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very happy for him, and I'm glad to see him, and things work out for him.
Well, I got 2 questions for you real quick, Guido, because you kind of touch base on both of them, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask these together. Do you have an odds-on favorite to win the Cruiserweight Global Series?
Well, obviously, if you're going to go with the veterans, if you're going to go with the veterans, it could be Tajiri, it could be Brian Kendrick, but, I don't know if it's going to go that route. Now, we all know professional wrestling is entertainment, so let's understand that. So hopefully they're using those guys to elevate guys. And I would say, again, like Tony Nese. I think he's phenomenal. And he's a great person. He's a good guy. And, if you're going to come down to one person, and believe me, there's a lot of other guys. I'm trying to think fast. There's 30 guys in there. And there's a few other ones too, but if you're asking me for one guy, I think Tony Nese has what it takes. I think he's in phenomenal shape. He looks great, and he knows how to work. He knows what to do. He can tone it down when he has to, and he knows when to tone it up. And he tells a great story. He understands the business. He understands the philosophy of how a match goes, and how the flow of a match would go. And I would say, he would be perfect.
Okay, and the other question that I had for you, you were talking about the WWE, the ECW One Night Stand. Do you feel that WWE or TNA put on a better reunion show for ECW?
Do I feel that TNA, the reunion? So that was the One Night Stand was WWE's reunion show, I would say, because I did so many reunion shows. I think for them.
Yes, sir.
The TNA one, I did the six-man tag.
Hardcore Justice, right? I think. Yeah, the Hardcore Justice.
Yeah, Hardcore Justice. Right. That was on. What's actually weird about that? I believe, and I might got this wrong. Hardcore Justice was August 8th, 2010. I actually got released, and I ended up doing that Hardcore Justice thing 8/8/10,
wow.
I believe. So I always remember you always remember when you get fired from a job. It always sucks. But I think it was just different. I mean, the good thing about it is both of them had the Tommy Dreamer feel, because Tommy Dreamer was him and Paul Lee were part of the one in the 2005 in the Hammerstein Ballroom. And Tommy Dreamer had a big part of the one that we did, obviously, because he was working for TNA at that time. And Tommy Dreamer learned a lot from Paul Lee through the years, and had a lot of the same intentions and ideas, I believe, that Paul Lee had. So I'll tell you, I think the fans, I enjoyed both of them. I really did. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to actually say which one that was better. I would have to go back and watch the shows. Actually, I can only go by my match. I got to be honest. I never watched the whole 2005 One Night Stand. I watched my match, and I never really watched the whole Hardcore Justice. I watched my match. So
wow.
I can't really say I watched it. It was live. I did it there. I didn't come home and watch it.
Well, I've got to honestly say when we had Al Snow on a while back, I asked him the same question, and he said he couldn't pick either. He couldn't pick either one. Which was better. In his mind either. So I guess they both lived up to what they were supposed to live up to.
Well, that I do believe. Because I think I didn't hear any complaints about the 2005 One Night Stand we did, and that led into, I think, Vince McMahon wanting to bring ECW back. And if that show stunk, I don't think he would have done that. And I know we got a hell of a response for the Hardcore Justice, which they ended up bringing me and Tony back and a couple other guys. We didn't stay for too long, but we brought back. We worked with some of the guys. So, but at that time too, they had. I think Vince Russo was still there. So, you had certain guys pushing for the ECW product, and you might have had certain guys pushing that they didn't want the ECW product. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on, too. That has a lot to do with it. Even if the show is great, it could be people not wanting it to work. That happens.
Now, the original full-blooded Italians were, J.T. Smith, Tommy Rich, Tracy Smothers, and yourself. You were the only one that was Italian. What was the gimmick originally supposed to represent?
Well, a lot of people first of all think that I was the first FBI member. I was the most longest-lasting FBI member, but the whole gimmick started with J.T. Smith. J.T. Smith was the full-blooded Italian. Obviously, here's a black guy that comes out singing Frank Sinatra. If you watch the early tape before I even got there, coming out with the Italian flag, singing Frank Sinatra and "Fly Me to the Moon," and he thought he was Italian. Then when Paul Lee, when I first started there, I was wrestling as Damien Stone for a couple of months. Paulie was always saying, "Oh, you remind me of a Joe Pesci guy." You know what Joe Pesci is? He's a small guy, but thinks he can beat the world up. He's like, you got to be very, very hyper, very this. And he kept saying that. And then he thought of the idea and put me in with J.T. Smith, and we debuted me and J.T. debuted in Queens, New York at the Lost Battalion Hall. He came out doing his shtick first, and then I came out, and he supposedly got hit in the head but with a frying pan and woke up and thought he was Italian, and that was his cousin. So I came out trying to tell him, I'm your cousin, you don't remember me. If you go back and watch early episodes, you'll see that was on TV for ECW. And that's how the gimmick started. So the gimmick started before me. The gimmick started with J.T. Smith as a full-blood Italian. He was by himself. And then they brought me in. And the only reason J.T. Smith left was he quit. He got a job in, Richmond, Virginia after, a year and a half. He quit and went to Virginia. And then Tommy Rich and Tracy Smothers at that time were in ECW. And, Paulie said, what the hell? We had a black guy. Why don't we throw some Southern guys with this group, too? And then they threw him in with me. And then we started the FBI again with me and Tracy and Tommy. And then after a couple of years, we brought in Kid Cash one time. We brought in Mabel, One Man Gang. We had a few FBI members come and go. Sal Balomo, he was with us for a little while, actually, Sal, if you remember that. He was the guy. Yeah. He was the Godfather, too, for a few episodes, a few months, I would say. And then once Tracy and Tommy left in 1998, they brought in Big Sal Graziano, or 1999. Yeah. They left in 99 and brought in Big Sal and Tony Mamaluke, and then there we were off and running again with a different version of the FBI. And then it was me and Tony Mamaluke with Big Sal as our manager, Big Sal Graziano. And then when ECW closed, obviously I went to WWE, and then Zamboli and Chuck Palumbo. And then we reformed the FBI again. And that FBI, I'll tell you, in our first year and a half, we were feuding with all the top guys. We feuded with Undertaker. We did programs with Rikishi, programs with all the top guys. We were doing stuff with APA. We wrestled Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. We were with everybody for the first year and a half, 2 years. So that gimmick actually did a lot. And at one point, we had Vince McMahon hired us to help him during matches for a pay-per-view where it was him. I forget who he was actually. It was him and Undertaker did something, and then they had us come out to make the save. So we were involved in some great storylines in the beginning days of the FBI in the WWE.
I always thought that that version that Vince and Paulie used, that they based it off the Mafia, with you guys coming in, and being the muscle.
Well, the WWE version.
Yeah, with Johnny Zamboli and.
Yeah. That was more than Marvelous. The one in in ECW was just more comical. The one in ECW is more comical because here you got me and a black guy as the full blood Italian. He's not. We got me and two Southern guys. Obviously, he's not. Believe it or not, Chuck Palumbo could play off as Italian. Johnny Stamboli, he could play off as Italian. Here was a time where there was actually maybe 3 Italians in a group, or at least looked Italian, So, and then we did that where we used to do the gambling and all that kind of stuff, in the locker room. So, that was Mafia-based, but it was kind of it wasn't serious Mafia-based. It was more comical Mafia-based.
I thought it was a very legit version, and I thought maybe when I was watching at the time that the tag team titles would somehow get involved, but we all know what came to fruition. But I did think that was one of the more threatening versions of the full-blooded Italians.
Yes, absolutely. That was more threatening, 100%. And that all came part because when we were feuding with The Undertaker and we had to sit down with him at the table and, we were beating him down and having competitive matches with him. Absolutely. And that's what just gave us credibility. I understand what you're saying about the tag team titles. I mean, we wrestled Guerrero and Chavo many a times, and Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Gaz, but creative never thought of putting the belts on us. Why? I have no idea. If it was up to me, we would have the titles, but it wasn't up to me. Why they didn't give those guys a chance, I think they should have myself, but what can you do?
I've got two FBI-related questions, full-blooded Italian questions for you, Guido. The first question, I've always wondered, is Sal Renaro, is that the same person as Rap Master PM News, or is that two different people?
Sal Graziano.
Sal Graziano.
Yes. Is that the same person as Rap Master PM News?
Rap Master who?
PM News. It used to be in WCW.
Oh, PN News.
PN News.
PN News. No,
Yeah.
those are two different guys. No, that's not
two
the same
different
guy.
guys.
No, I know PN News. Oh yeah, PN News wrestled in ECW as PN News. Yeah, no,
okay.
that's definitely different people. I know both of them.
Okay, and the other question I had for you, why do you think that Tommy Rich wasn't involved in the Full Blood Italians when they went over to WWE?
When they put a well, I don't know. I mean, they when they reformed the Full Blood Italians, when Paulie did it there, Tommy Rich wasn't employed there. Paulie, I think, wanted it more serious. And Johnny Stamboli, the big powerhouse, and like you said, Chuck Palumbo. They didn't want to bring. It was like three Italians that were real Italians. They didn't. I don't think they wanted to bring comico. I mean, I can't really answer that question from knowing why. But I think that was Tracy Smothers, Tommy Rich. That was more or less the ECW version of the FBI. When I was in WWE, and when the creative wanted to form an FBI with me, and Paul Lee wanted to form it. They had Chuck Palumbo that maybe I don't think they were doing nothing with anymore. I think he just did that thing with Billy Gunn. I think that was over, and he was kind of hanging in the balance. And they just hired Johnny Stamboli came over from WCW, and he was in the Mamalukes, so he already kind of did the Italian thing too, which fans knew who he was from there, knew who I was from ECW. So I think that's why, I think that's why. I mean, I don't know that for a fact. I have no idea why he didn't bring Tommy Rich over to WWE. I have no idea,
What
was
the
beginning? That would have took. Hang on, that would have took my spot if you think about it. Because in the beginning of the FBI, I was the manager. It was kind of like those were the wrestlers. If you watch the beginning, I used to do 6-man tags with them, but they are the ones that used to do matches. For the first year, I used to come out in the leather jacket and just manage and be the antagonizer. And then at the end, everybody would get their hands on me. So like that, the manager part was me, and I was a different type of manager than Tommy Rich was.
Yeah, so it's kind of good you did go over WWE, because then Tommy would have took your place, because he was at an ECW. I get what you're saying.
I don't know
on
for a
that.
fact, but I'm just saying he managed in ECW, me and somebody in the beginning version of WWE. I was a manager of Chuck and Johnny. I wasn't really the wrestler. I did wrestle in the beginning, because when I started, I started with Jamie Noble, and we were wrestling. I was doing stuff with Tajiri. I was doing stuff with Crash Holly. I wrestled for the first year there. And then the second year there, they wanted to put me with a group, and that's when they formed the FBI. So I don't even think Tommy was thought of in a way.
My final question to you, Guido, I was going to ask you about if you would ever return to WWE, but you basically answered that earlier. But my final question to you is
there's no you never say never. But it would have to. It would be hard to go back as a talent when I'm kind of set right now, only because and to their credit, they can't always keep you as a talent. You can't. Once they're done with you, they're gonna release you. It's just the way it goes. And now, if they were gonna hire me as an employee is a different story. If the WWE wanted me, I still wrestle all the time on independence. I'm in the best shape of my life. If they want help from me, I can get off of work. I could help them. I live in the New York area. If they wanted it, I could go wrestle all their guys in at the Garden and Nassau Coliseum in Boston and in Albany. In the area I'm in, there's so many places they go. The county center. There's so many things they could bring me back. Spot shows, they could do that. Or bring as an employee. That's the only way I would look at going back. You never ever say never. I never close the door. I would never say I'd never go back to WWE, but it had to be in certain circumstances. Even that cruiserweight thing, that would be hard because in 6-7 months a year, if it's folding, not folding, I don't want to use the word folding, but if they're going another route with it and they just hired all these guys and now they're going to let these guys go, and that's what they have to do. They can't say, well, Jamie, threw away a job for this. They're not going to think like that. I work hard in the real world. I got a pension. I got a retirement right now. I got things going on. So I would have to think hard about just going back. Now, if it's guys that have no jobs and they're just kind of hanging and lingering, of course you'd go back, because even if it lasts a year, at least, okay, you got a job for a year. It depends on the person and the time when they want to bring you back. But I never would say never. I think there's a lot I could help the WWE with right now. but they have to ask me. I mean, you know, I'm here, you know. So.
What would you say that was the craziest match that you've ever had in your career on the indie scene, ECW, wherever? What was the craziest match you've ever had to fight?
Well, I mean, a lot of there's not just one, because like in ECW, the night we won the tag team titles from New Jack and Coronas. I mean, if you look at that, I mean, I've done matches like that night after night. I used to hate hearing New Jack's music because I knew the garbage can was coming. Oh, and here comes all the crap too, and then, you know, we got hit with most of the stuff. You know, me and everybody else. So there was many of those type of matches that we did that you're getting hit with computers and keyboards and, you know, Singapore canes and stuff like that. But, you know, those are some of the best memories of my life also. You know, I mean, that was the night I won the ECW Tag Team titles the first time. So, you know, the night that New Jack actually put me through 2 tables at the ECW arena, I forget exactly what match it was. The Dudleys were involved in that match, and they put me on stacks. You could get it online. You could watch it. You could watch it right on the network probably. And New Jack, they hoisted him up, and he went to the top of the where you leap off, and then he leaped off and put me through 2 tables. You know, that was pretty crazy. But, you know, I got to say there's not just one. Not just one. I mean, in WWE, I didn't do too many crazy matches. I did good wrestling matches, good cruiserweight matches. Nothing like the Hardys and the Dudleys with the TLC matches that they did there, Dudley and all them. You know, I did nothing like that there. Most of my crazy stuff was in ECW. And on the indies, I would never do crazy stuff because I wouldn't, for the money that you're making, you don't do crazy stuff. You just get through.
Absolutely. I see we've got about 4 minutes left, Guido. I want to ask you if you have any upcoming appearances or anything like that you'd like to promote.
Yeah, I'm going to Chicago for Dreamwave. That's August 6th. I have I could promote some. Hang on, let me get my book though. I just happen to have it here. Hang on,
okay.
I gotta look. I can't remember the stuff. So August is actually very busy for me. June was very busy, but I'm not going to promote those shows because those are done. I just wrestled last week actually for Bo James, actually, who just was in NXT. He ran a show up in Long Island. We all were there. Me, he had Kurt Hawkins, he had El Torito, Bennett from TNA. He had a good show there. But August 6th, I'm in Chicago. I got a show for Matt August 19th in Brooklyn. True Wrestling, August 27th, me and Danny Doring. I believe that's in Pennsylvania. Got a show then. I got a Dreamwave again, October 1st. I'm wrestling in Queens, New York, October 15th for Jack Sabbath. I'm doing a convention in Philadelphia for Hardy, me and Mama Luke, the day of Dreamless show. I'm going back to Chicago September 3rd for Dreamwave again. September 10th, I got Staten Island. People would have to look these up, but you know, you're just asking me something. Clinton, Mass, October 29th. So as you can see, I keep busy. I keep very busy. Dreamwave again, November 5th. That's in Chicago. Tommy Fates is running a show November 12th. I'll be wrestling there, and that's in the Jersey area. And then, and that's it. That's just nothing in December. So I still keep busy. I like still doing wrestling because it's my part-time job. I still make money, and you know, I'm lucky enough to make good money on the outside of wrestling. Where if I don't want to take a show, I don't have to take it. You know, I don't rely on the money. I don't have to, because sometimes people want you to do daring things, and you know, it has to fit what I want to do. I'm not going to go out there. You know, I make extra money. I'll entertain the fans, but I'm not going to put my life on the line and be doing crazy things on the independents. You know.
I agree. So. I agree with what you're saying, Guido, and we want everybody go and check out those dates that he was talking about he's got coming up. We want to thank you so much for being on the WSE Lounge today, Guido, and we wish you the best of luck in all you do, sir.
All right. Thank you for having me. Take care.
You're very welcome. God bless.
This is Mike Mooneyham. I want to tell all you fans out there, don't miss the WSE Lounge. You'll be glad you caught this great show.
Hi, this is Mark Merrill, former Intercontinental Champion with the World, and you're listening to WSE Lounge. This is Frank Hernandez. Hey, this is Bo
Ashley Carson, and you're listening to the WSE Lounge.
This is Tony Blanchard, and you are listening to the WSE Lounge.
Hey y'all, we're Diamond Dixie, and you're listening to the WSE Lounge.
I'm Jeff Jarrett, the founder and CEO of Kings Mountain. Jeff Jarrett.
Hey, this is Kristen Alderson, and you're listening to the WSE Lounge.
Hi, this is Mark Merrill, former Intercontinental Champion with the World Wrestling History and John Bass, three-time World Television Champion. Don't touch it now, or it's going to be a mess at TQS.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jason Boyd, along with my co-host for the day, and for Brian Vaughn, Georgia referee Harold Radar Martin. Harold, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Jason. I understand you're a little bit under the weather, and I know Brian is, but thank you for having me anyway.
Well, we always appreciate you on the WSE Lounge, and a little update on my co-host Brian Vaughn. At this point in time, he's doing a little better. He's taking it a day at a time, still having dizziness. We wish him the best, and all prayers are going his way. But our guest at this time is Lucha Libre star of EMLO and UWLA. He is Rock Aztecha. Rock, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how you doing today? Thanks for having me today.
Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Sure, it's a pleasure, man.
Well, thank you for coming on. I was wanting to repeat that show that we did in May the 1st with Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Was that back at WrestleMerica, Harold?
Yeah, that was WrestleMerica. Yeah, that was a WrestleMerica show.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you, do you prefer the American style or the Lucha Libre style?
Well, Lucha Libre style is, to me, is that's how we're born. You know, we come from, actually I come from some luchadores from Mexico. You know, my dad was a wrestling. Have my uncles, so very much I come from a family. And I've been learning like American wrestling here, what we're training right now.
Okay.
There's definitely a lot of tradition in Lucha Libre, and as you said, the families in the business. And where did you get your start, Rock?
Well, you know, basically it has been like working with the family. You know, very much my dad and my uncle. That's the ones that decide to help me out with that. It comes from family. It comes from family.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite luchador that you grew up watching?
Well, yes. I mean, one of them. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. My dad, he was one of my favorites, luchador. Well, I have
of course
my uncle, which was one of the superstars from Mexico. He got the record of the most match win. I think he got on his record around 60 match. So I think he's one of my favorites. His name is Estrella Blanca.
Mm-hmm.
His name is like a white star. You know?
Right. I've heard of that.
Yeah. So
how do you find the fans like Mexico? The fans.
I'm sorry, man. It's breaking up a little bit. Can you repeat the question?
In the U.S., how are they different?
I'm sorry, man. I've been having problems with the phone. It's breaking out. Hello?
Harold, repeat the question for him.
I was asking about compare the fans in the U.S. to the fans in Mexico. How are the differences?
Well, actually, it's not that big difference. Well, actually, I don't notice that difference a lot. Well, you know, American fans are kind of a little more hard to convince because our style is like very, very different of you know, American style. But I don't see that much difference.
It's very fast paced, and you know, the 6-man tags are huge in Mexico. I like the way you don't have to tag. Once you go to the floor, another man can come in. That keeps the match very fast paced, and the fans really get into it.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, you know, fans. It's just hard to tell how to get, you know, fans on it. It's just you have to make the fans believe on Lucha Libre.
Absolutely.
How about your beautiful costume?
I'm sorry, man, it's so hard to hear that the phone is breaking up.
Harold, you break it up again.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I don't know what exactly. Let me switch phones. Go ahead and ask him a question. I'll try to switch phones.
Now, as a youngster, you have aspirations of being at the AAA promotion and EMLL, which are very huge in Mexico. I used to watch it in the it came on real late on one of the, and I don't speak Spanish very well, but I sit there and watch it and I enjoyed it. Did you ever have aspirations of being in Mexico at one of those two companies?
Actually, well, we love to go to Mexico. Definitely wrestle for those big companies. Yeah, I mean, if I have the opportunity, I will go and be glad to be part of it.
Absolutely. And what are some of the titles you have held in the United States or Mexico?
Well, Mexico, basically, we start like working with a title of medical middleweight, and then you know, try to get some mass or do a big match. Well, right here on the next, I think it's gonna be the July 24th. We're gonna have a big match. So it's gonna be one match, or I heard somebody's gonna lose, and I'm a part of that show. So, and this show is gonna be on Tennessee. So we have a lot of people welcome.
Now that is UWLA in Nashville, Tennessee. Am I correct?
That is right.
Oh,
yeah, that is
right. Harold, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead, Brock.
Have you ever worked for Mucha Lucha in Atlanta?
No, right now. We haven't got the opportunity to work with Mucha Lucha. We love to have the opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. But I think, you know, the promoter of these events been working to get, you know, the best luchadores from Mexico, and then try to get people from different states. We haven't got the opportunity, but I wish I can have that opportunity work for Mucha Lucha. You know, that company is getting big. It's getting big.
Absolutely. Mucha Lucha has gotten bigger. I mean, it was just a few years ago that I heard about it, and now it is very, very huge here in the Atlanta area. Harold, you got anything else for Rock?
I was wondering about Lucha Underground. It's very, very good. Would you like an opportunity to work there, if possible?
If it's possible, if it's the opportunity, yes, I will be glad to work for Lucha Underground. You know, that would be a big step to start working on big companies.
So what is your favorite type match to work? Is it a single, a tag match, or the 6-man tag match as we talked about earlier? Or maybe an 8-man?
6 match, I'm going to say team match is going to be my favorite, you know, because you have the opportunity to work with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Is the in and out real quick? Is it really hard to, you know, get your traction, or do you pretty much are ready for this guy?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, with the 6-man tags, the in and out, you know, one goes to the floor, one gets back in. Is it hard to adjust to the next opponent quickly?
Oh, that's hard. That's hard. Yeah, it's well, you know, it's hard to answer that question because, you know, 6 people on the same ring. I mean, it's hard. You know, even when you have a match with one person, it's hard. So imagine that 6 people. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Lucha Libre got real big in America in the mid-90s, around 1996. And, you know, I'd seen a little bit of it, but I wasn't accustomed to that kind of wrestling, and it absolutely amazed me the first couple times I seen a couple of them 6-man tag matches. I mean, guys like Super Colo and Lismark Jr., those guys were absolutely amazing to me.
Yeah, they are amazing. You know what I mean? It's just like these people, you know, they are very professional wrestlers, and definitely they know what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, like Lismar Jr., you know, Rey Mysterio Jr.
Absolutely.
They're a great wrestlers, you know, and they have a lot of experience, and they've been, you know, long time on this business.
Mm-hmm.
Hector Garza comes to mind.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Hector Garza comes to mind. He was. I always liked him.
Hector Garza.
Yeah,
he was one of the great wrestlers in Mexico. He was, you know, he was one of the biggest superstars in Mexico, and I mean, I think he did well on USA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember first seeing him, and he was amazing. I mean, 96, 97, exploded onto the scene. Everybody would wait, and it would usually either put him at the curtain jerker, or, you know, it would be middle of the show, and their main events would last like 2 or 3 minutes on Nitro, but people would rather see, you know, Juventud Guerrera versus Psychosis.
Mhm. Well, Psychosis, you know, I mean, that guy is like really hard. You know, he got a lot of experience. So, I mean, I think Psychosis. I mean, and personally, I know him. I know how, you know, he's a very nice person, and I know his work.
Harold?
Well, I just like that the luchadors are sometimes smaller, you know, smaller guys, but they do very good. Like Blue Demon Jr. I met him in Miami a couple of years ago, and he's a little smaller guy, you know, but he's a great athlete, and he does great. So I just like how the luchadors, are give 110% out there.
Yeah, well, we have to spend a lot of time on the gym, practice, to be prepared, for those kind of wrestling. Sometimes you get big guys, or sometimes you get same size guys. So you have to be like prepared and be ready for it. You never know when you're gonna match somebody like big.
Like a La Parka, for instance. Parker was one. Go ahead, Rock. Like a La Parka. Yeah, I'm sorry. La Parka was, the bigger cruiser. Well, I wouldn't even say cruiserweight, but the bigger luchador. And he was about 6'2", 250 pounds, and could move just like the little guys.
Yeah, well, La Parka is he's a really big guy, but, he got a lot of experience as well, working on it. And he got, many, many years doing this job. And, La Parka don't care if he got a match with a small guy or a big guy, he just do his job.
He's an absolutely amazing performer. And, talking about guys that I grew up watching, Mil Mascaras, the man of 1,000 masks. I know he is a big superstar in the Mexican culture. And tell us a little bit about the history of the mask for the lucha stars.
Masks, it started really, really long time ago. Actually, the first wrestling that was wearing a mask, it was some American guy from Texas. That was the first guy wearing a mask, and that bring back that to Mexico. So pretty much it's just to cover your identity and make the fans wonder who's that person. Probably you've been talking with them on the street or being on the supermarket with that person and you don't even know,
Absolutely, and then it became a tradition.
Yeah.
After it was started. Harold?
Yeah, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, we love to hear what you got to say.
No, what I'm saying is, now in Mexico is a big tradition. Wearing a mask, now, every restaurant that start getting on this business, they have to wear masks. It's just a part of it. Now, wearing a mask it's a part of you, so you don't want nobody knows your identity. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And then in the 90s, I used to kind of get mad because it seemed like every luchador, they had to have a versus mask match, and it was late in World Championship Wrestling. It was Juventud Guerrera unmasked, Rey Mysterio unmasked, Psychosis unmasked. Now, as a lucha libre, I know they were making good money, but does that hurt the status of the contender?
No, it doesn't hurt. If you lose your mask, basically you just adopt it to have another identity. Basically, you just start wrestling without mask, and having no mask probably that give you more fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Harold, did you have anything?
Well, I just wanted to say I do know that El Santo was buried in his mask when he passed away, so I know that that how big the tradition and of wearing the mask and how important that is to the luchadors.
Yeah, you know how to say earlier, it's just it is just part of you. You know, it's just part of you, man. I mean, you try to see like my brother. He's using my dad name, like wrestle name, and then in this guy Aztecha, his identity like a crazy. You know what I mean? He just wear his mask everywhere. You know, it has to be part of you.
And that makes perfect sense to me. Harold knows this. My co-host I usually have on, Brian, knows this. I'm a killer about kayfabe and stay in storyline. I love guys that actually walk around with the mask on outside of wrestling. That is great. And another thing you mentioned, Rod, the Rey Mysterio took Rey Mysterio Jr. And I remember seeing his uncle. I believe it was the No, it wasn't. It was the Paddle Tag-Team tournament back in 1990 at Starrcade 90. And I seen Rey Mysterio for the first time. Now, do you take the family's name or more like your trainer?
Well, actually, no, I didn't take family's name. That's something that I was working like for a long time. You know, I tried to have like another names, you know, but this one basically they just started like giving me more projection, and you know, I think that's what the fans like. And we stay with this name. You know, now we've been wrestling with this name for probably 5 years, and I mean, you know, people like this name and like what I have for the fans, you know.
Absolutely, it's pretty unique name. Now, did you get it from did you study the Aztecs and kind of use that into your gimmick?
Well, actually, you know, Rock, I chose it because, you know, I'm very, very fan of Rock. And then Aztec is just because I like to, you know, read a lot about, you know, about the Aztecs, you know, like what they do, you know, a lot of things about the Aztecs. So that's what I chose that name.
Absolutely, that is very, very. Don't you got anything else for Rock?
No, I think we're about running out of time. I'm not sure, but.
Well, Rock, you got your events coming up?
Yes, actually, we have. Yes, actually, on July the 23rd, we go with this company IMLL. We're going to Dalton, Georgia. So we're going to have a big match over there, and we're going to be shredding with big stars from Mexico. So, you know, everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome to go to the show. And then July 24th, we're going to Tennessee with UWLA. Yeah, as well, we're going to have, you know, big match over there. And then as well, we're going to have, you know, big superstars from Mexico as well. So everybody's just welcome to go.
And I know my friend Antonio Garza will be there.
I'm sorry?
I know Antonio Garza, my friend, will be there.
Yeah, well, Antonio Garza is going to be there. I think this biggest star from Mexico, Felino, it's going to be there too. And we have Catwoman Lee Stream, it's going to be there too. So we have big stars.
All right. Absolutely. And Rock, I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. It's been very interesting.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
No problem. You have a good evening and a blessed day, sir.
Thank you. Same for you. Y'all have a good day.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Bye-bye.
that was Rock Aztecha. And we will be back as we are going to pause for show identification. Okay, well, sorry about the glitch there. We had something going on. But Harold, last night, Monday Night Raw, better known to his fans of the ring as Blackjack Mulligan, was born in Sweetwater, Texas on November 26, 1940. He would stay with ECW until its closing in early 2001, capturing the company's tag team championship on 3 occasions, twice with Little Spike Dudley and once with the Japanese sensation Masato Tanaka, before traveling the country indie circuit from 2001 to 2006 as a special attraction. In 2005, he made it to the WWE with its new brand of ECW. He appeared at the One Night Stand pay-per-view in the summer of 2005. He worked with the company off and on until 2008 when WWE was wrapping up its ECW brand. He also appeared on TNA Impact, helping former tag team partners Little Spike Dudley, under the name Brother Runt, attack his foes. He would continue to be an indie attraction afterwards until his death on April 12, 2016.
And former 6-time WWE Hardcore Champion Al Snow.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing, sir?
I am fantastic, and thank you very much for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it. And feel free to ask any question you want. The only dumb one's the one you don't ask. So.
You're very welcome. What was it that made you decide you wanted to be a wrestler?
You know, I really don't know. I just knew that I had to do it. That there was no other way around it. But I had to pursue it and live my dream and be a professional wrestler. And you know, I've loved it ever since before I did it, and I've loved it even more ever since I've done it. And I just, when the day comes and I can't do it no more, I'll still love it then, you know, and I'll miss it more than I could probably imagine.
How was it working in the Kimmel of Hell match against the Big Boss match? And how chaotic was it really? Your thoughts on this match, sir?
Say that one more time. I barely heard you for some reason. I could barely hear you ask me a question. Say it one more time.
How was it working in the Kimmel of Hell match against the late Big Boss Man? And how chaotic was it, really? Your thoughts on the match, sir?
Look, working with Big Boss Man was fantastic. I mean, he was so great in so many ways and such a wonderful person. And, you know, I feel really lucky that I got to, you know, do that whole angle, that whole storyline with him. You know, he was awesome. He really, truly was. Just a terrific person. You know, the Kill from Hell, everybody busts my balls about it because of, you know, Nick and other people. But, you know, and I'll take responsibility for the fact that, you know, when you're given a certain situation, you know, there's no such thing as can't in professional wrestling. You pretty much, you got to take crap and make shine. Oh, I mean, that's pretty much the way it works. And, you know, unfortunately, though, the number one rule in entertainment is you don't work with children or animals. And when they first approached me, and I mean they, meaning WWE, Vince Russo and Vince McMahon and everyone else, approached me about doing this storyline, I said, we need trained animals. I cannot advocate that enough. We need trained animals. Oh, yeah. Of course, Pepper was not trained, and I wanted a highly trained animal for that part of it. And then I kept saying for the entire length of the story that once we got to the payoff match, this Kennel from Hell match, that we needed highly trained attack dogs that would be trained by one trainer from one kennel, so that would operate on verbal command, so that he could stand outside the cage, and then just the dogs would be released inside. And no problem. Well, I arrived in Charlotte, North Carolina that day, and all that was there were several different dogs from several different owners, and all the dogs had been gotten that day by them calling different veterinarian clinics in the area, asking if somebody owned a Rottweiler, and one dog had some obedience training, and that was it. So now you have a story. The centerpiece of the story is all about, and has been made all about for months, animals that aren't trained, that you can't now utilize in the story of the match because they're not capable of being worked with, and and then it's made a joke of, for years. So it was embarrassing, and it's people ask questions about it, and the only reason they ask questions about it is to bust my balls. It's not like they really are actually concerned with the lengthy explanation as to really what happened or why. Everybody just wants, thinks it's a joke and thinks it's funny, and, that's why they want to ask. But that is actually what took place, is that I literally was put into a position of trying to, both Bossman and I were put into a position of trying to work with animals that were not trained, and were urinating, defecating, and were fornicating on the outside of the ring to where they couldn't put them on TV, couldn't put them on the show in any manner, to where now, again, your entire focus of this story you can't utilize in any manner. So kind of makes it kind of tough.
How does it feel for you knowing you helped train Dan the Beast Servant?
I'm very proud of what Dan's accomplished in both professional wrestling and in UFC. It was part of, his training on to some level in both areas, and was thrilled. I mean, I'm very proud whenever guys that I train go out and succeed, because in some small part, whenever they succeed, I feel like I succeed. And I've trained tons and tons of guys that have all had a lot of success in professional wrestling. To varying degrees and varying levels, but at the end of the day, they've all been successful, and I'm very proud of that. In fact, I'm more proud of that than just about anything else I've done in professional wrestling.
Speaking of training, you actually have your own school, right? Your Al Snow Wrestling Academy?
Yes, I'm opening up my academy in London, England. It'll open up at the end of this month on April 29th. We'll open the doors. Got a 6,000 square foot facility where we'll be able to, we've got a team of trainers that all have 15 years plus of doing professional wrestling for a living and nothing else. It's a tremendous group of people that I've put together, and we've got 3 rings. Big, huge matted area. We have partnerships with other promotions, literally from around the world, in Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Ireland, and everywhere else, in England, in the UK, that we're working with, so that we can, once our advanced students get to a certain point, we can start to work with them and get them booked out to other promotions. We'll also run shows of our own. We're working on a partnership with Fight TV to provide them content with our shows. It's great. I mean, I'm really, really, really excited about all the potential and all the possibilities that we have with it. I really am.
That is awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and I've got 34 years of experience doing this for a living and nothing else. And I've trained. God, I don't know how many guys I've trained that have, went on to succeed. And when I was head of the training and development for WWE and OVW, there are most of the major stars that are in WWE and in WWE for the past several years are all people that were students of mine. They're all people that I trained, that I worked with.
Wow.
That brings me to my next question. Brian kind of took it out of my mouth, but out of all the people you have worked with, Al, trained, who stands out?
I can't hear him for some reason. I'm sorry. I can't hear what he asked me.
He said out of all the people that you've trained, who stands out to you the most?
Jeez. That would be, I've trained so many guys, so many women and so many men that to just pick one or two that would stand out more than the others, that'd be tough. That'd really be tough. I mean, they've all been just awesome people and are so talented, in their own fashion. I don't know. It would be hard to just pick one or two, and I wouldn't want to, because then I would feel like I was leaving so many others out, and I wouldn't want them to, call me up, hey, what about me? Why didn't you say something about me? So, I mean, I'd probably hurt people's feelings and not even mean to do it. So,
can you tell us about your time in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, teaming with Glenn Jacobs as the dynamic duo?
Oh yeah, that was so much fun, and I got to work with the Rock and Roll Express for a long period of time. Learned so much. Ricky Morton is literally a genius in wrestling, and Robert Gibson, and has been around forever, and his brother, Rick Gibson, had been around even before that, and what an incredible opportunity that was. I can't thank Jim Cornette enough, and that was what got me my opportunity with WWF.
Yeah, because didn't they hire you and Glenn at the same time?
Oh, they'd already hired Glenn prior to me coming down there. They had hired Glenn, and I just was put with Glenn and was working with him at the time. And then they hired me, totally on my own after that. So, it was so much fun, such a joy, and I had so many good memories, so much, such a good time working with those guys, and I was on my game. I was physically and mentally on my game at that point. I was firing on all cylinders, and just having fun. It was just such a great time.
In the greatest shape of your life, Al, how do you maintain it, and what are some of the things you do to maintain it?
Okay, you're gonna have to repeat it one more time, because I still can't hear him. What did he say?
I'm sorry, Al.
Oh, that's all right. I can't hear you for some reason.
You look to be in the greatest shape of your life, maybe. How do you maintain it, and what are some of the things you're doing?
Oh, I owe a lot of it to my wife. She kicks my butt. She's a competitive bodybuilder, and and just, wears me out trying to keep up with her. And then, I changed how I train. I stopped training the way I had for years. I started training more like the old-time strongmen and old-time wrestlers train. Started training like them, and then started kind of paying attention to what I eat a little bit more, and it made all the difference. It really did. And I've just been, really pushing myself to try to keep up with all the young guys. It ain't easy, believe me.
You're doing a very great job with that.
Thank you. I'm doing my best. I'm really, really trying. At some point, it'll all come to an end. But even after it comes to an end, I'm going to do my best to try and keep myself in the best physical condition I can. Because there's facts. It's gotten to the point now where if I don't work out, I feel worse. I physically hurt and just feel mentally, crappy. But if I do work out, it changes the whole thing. I get that whole endorphin rush, and it really makes a big difference.
Now this is a question that I've always wanted to know, Al. I know you worked for, ECW and Paul Heyman and everything, and something I always want to know is, did Vince McMahon help fund ECW back in the 90s?
There's been lots of speculation and assumption, and if I were to give you an answer, that's all my answer would be too, would just be speculation and assumption. I wasn't privy to know anything for sure. So I wish I could help you out, guys, but I don't know the answer. I would imagine, that they probably were working together to some way, to some degree. I would think so. It would have, Vince benefited from it, that's for sure. And so I'm sure Vince is a very wise, very smart businessman, and I'm sure he could see, as far as development of talent and creation of direction and stuff like that, how he could benefit from helping, and being a silent partner with Paul Heyman. So it wouldn't surprise me, but again, all of that is just speculation. It's complete conjecture on my part.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, Al, because we usually ask our guests that come on. I wanted to ask you if you could do like a quick promo just saying, hello, this is Al Snow, and you're listening to the WSE Lounge.
WSA Lounge, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
It's former WWE superstar Al Snow, and you're listening to the WSA Lounge.
It's actually E-Lounge.
E-Lounge. Oh, E-Lounge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
WSE Lounge. Okay.
Yes.
Let me do that again.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
This is former WWE superstar, present TNA star, host of Tough Enough, British Boot Camp, you name it, I've done it. You put 3 letters together with a W in it, I've been there. Al Snow. And you're listening to WSE Lounge.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And
you're very welcome.
We're gonna pause for just a few seconds of a commercial break as we have a promo from a person.
Hi, this is Eric Bischoff, and you're listening to the WSE Lounge.
Okay, we're back. And Jason, you got another question?
Yeah. What are some of your most memorable road stories, Al?
Oh gosh, some of my most memorable road stories. Just my time with Marty Jannetty was like traveling with Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. It never ended. That he was constantly trying to play practical jokes on you, Owen Hart was a lot that way too. He just constantly was cutting up and trying to, get you to react, get you to sell. Riding with a lot of the guys, and you just get to, get such an experience and create such memories, such camaraderie, I have a unfounded reputation for being, a ribber. People say that I rib people, which I don't rib people, because I wouldn't be known to have abducted a baby goat from a petting zoo and then placed it in somebody's hotel room. I wouldn't have, super glued somebody's feet together one night. I wouldn't do things like that, if you know what I mean. So.
That's awesome. That is definitely awesome.
Speaking of jokes and stuff, Al, I've got to say, I love, I get a kick out of the jokes you put on Facebook and everything, and
oh, thank you.
Yeah, they're I don't know how you come up with all that, but I mean, they're hilarious. And one of my questions, I was wondering, do you ever do any guest appearances like on Big Foley's comedy tour or anything?
No, I've never done any yet. Never know that they might come. It's funny too, because Mick used to tell everybody he wanted to be a stand-up comedian, and we all laughed. We were like, we all laughed and laughed and laughed, and then he's become a stand-up comedian. Nobody's laughing anymore. So that's a joke. So
that's a good one.
Yeah.
We've got a.
He's not funny because he's not funny. So
yeah. I did read some things that in some of Foley's books that he always would like try to make jokes at you and stuff. But, I didn't really understand that.
Well, it's very simple. If Nick didn't have me in there for material, then Nick's life story would be much like his penis. It would be short. So
yeah. Okay. Well, we have a caller to ask you a question now.
Sure.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, also I want to let you know before I bring the caller on, if you have a question for Al Snow, call him at 773-897-6289 and press 1 to be in the host's view, and we'll get you on the line to talk to Al. Okay, 770, you're on the air with Al Snow.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I wanted to know, Al, if you saw any promotion that could maybe rival the WWE, like WCW and TNA to some extent in the past has done.
There's no one that can rival WWE. There's no one that has been on the scene that's even come close. WCW did for a period of time, back in the late 90s for a period of time, but you just can't out Vince. If you're going to be a competitor, you need to come up with a completely new and different approach in order to have a chance. I mean, it's just that simple. WWE has been around for decades, literally decades. And Vince's grandfather, his father, Vince himself, it's an iconic brand at this point. It's like Band-Aid or any other number of Q-tips. It's Harley Davidson. It's what's used to identify wrestling. And you can't beat that. There's nobody that can possibly compete on that level. It's just not it. It's just not possible. Does it mean that there's not an open market for people to, create and exist with other wrestling companies? Absolutely. I mean, look at Walmart. Walmart's an iconic brand as far as retail stores, but there are plenty of other retail stores nationally and regionally and locally that secure a percentage of the market and can survive and can actually thrive. And and with wrestling you can do the same thing. The downside is that in order to do that, you're going to need the product, which is the talent, and to be able to acquire that kind of talent that would be focused on the right things, and where you could use that talent to draw money to survive. It's going to be tough. That's going to be really, 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 really hard these days. So.
Okay. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your call. Jason, do you have another question?
Oh, I'm going to ask Al. Our caller touched on a good point. How would you think the other direction would be to go? Like a more old school type direction now?
Well, there is no such thing as old school. And the reason I say there's no such thing as old school is because of the fact that there's only one thing that's fake about wrestling. It's the only thing that's ever been fake about wrestling. And that's just the outcome. That's it. There is nothing else that's fake. So until you come up with something new that's fake, which means if you come up with something new that we're selling, because we've only sold and we're always selling just the outcome. We're not selling anything else. The audience only pays to believe in the outcome. They don't pay to believe in anything else. So until you can come up with something new that's fake, i.e. something new that we're selling, then there is no old school. Now, from that standpoint, I do believe that there is a better way to do it, and that is much like the old way in the sense of, remembering what it is that we are selling and actually focusing on that as opposed to what has become in recent years, which is the selling of just the moves. And the moves themselves will never sell because nobody ever physically relates to what happens in the ring. If you were to ask anybody in the ring, they would think it was a trampoline or a mattress, which is anything but that. And but everybody, talent-wise, now tries to focus on getting people to believe on the moves themselves and not on the actual reason they do the moves, which is really what they're paying to believe in.
Like telling the story in the ring, is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, it's always about telling the story in the ring. Always. It's always about telling a story in the ring, but it's about telling a story in regards to winning and losing. Like and not about anything else. And that's now it's become more of a story about the moves themselves and not about when and why the moves are done to try to win and not lose. And if that focus were to go back more that way, I think you would see it. It would change dramatically, and it would open up the doors for other, like we talked about, regional and lower level organizations to be able to not only survive but thrive.
Who was your favorite person to work with between Mick Foley and Steve Blackman?
Both had their ups and downs. I mean, positives, negatives. I liked working both of them for different reasons. I loved, had a chemistry and the timing with both Steve and with Mick outside the ring that a lot of people remember and still talk about to this day. And I enjoyed working with both of them. I mean, they were both great performers. They were terrific guys. And I was really lucky to the rest work with them.
Oh, okay. Very, very cool. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no.
Yeah, if we were doing this interview in person, it'd be a lot different. Which ECW reunion did you enjoy better? Was it WWE's version or TNA's version?
Oh, I you know, I didn't. I liked them both. I enjoyed being part of them both, and thought they were a blast. I like TNA's because I got to actually wrestle a match on TNA's. On WWE's version, I just got to run it at the end and get a pre-tape in the back, and that was it. You know, because. But I like them both. I mean, they each had their own appeal at the time.
Okay.
You got to understand that every time I get to go in the ring, I love it. I love to do what I do. I have always have and always will. So it's tough for me to just pick one. You know, oh, well, I like this one better than I like that one. That's like saying, well, I like this $1 million more than I like that $1 million. You know.
Yeah, I got what you mean. You're saying that there's a certain energy that you feel. So I mean, you just love doing it.
I just love doing it. I really do. I mean, it's just there's nothing greater. It really isn't for me. It's I've always loved it and always will.
Proud of getting myself there. There's nothing like that.
There's nothing like professional wrestling. Nothing. You know, nothing compares to it, guys. I love the wrestling business. I love all the crazy, goofy stuff in it and all the crazy, goofy people in it, and and I love being a part of it. And I've gotten to do it for 34 years, and I've never once regretted doing it or being a part of it. Never once, and I never will. You know, it's just been an amazing way to live my life, and I've been very lucky to get to do it. I wouldn't get to see or do or meet or be a part of or be the person I am if it hadn't been for being a part of professional wrestling. And I've been grateful. I'm grateful every day. And thank people enough for letting me have the opportunity to do it.
I wanted to make a comment. I really enjoyed your feud you did with Joey Ryan. I thought both of you had a lot of chemistry on television, and I thought it made for good television.
Well, thank you very much. Joey's a very talented kid, and he made his own opportunities. When he came out there to that check thing, he made that opportunity himself. He had the balls to take it and run with it, and then, create it into a little bit of an angle and a story with me, and I had a blast, really did.
What's it like for you wrestling on Impact Wrestling again and feuding with Guido?
It's great. I get to show a different a side of being a heel. I haven't gotten to be for probably 14, 15 years. I was a heel for probably the first half of my career. So I get to be a heel again. I mean a real heel. I don't need to be cool, and I don't need to be hip, and I don't need to get any of my stuff in. I need to get people to cheer Guido and cheer Kira and not me. And I'll do whatever it takes, to get those guys over.
Okay. What the fans want to know, what does the future hold for TNA?
I hope a very long and lengthy business. I hope it keeps going. And but again, I'm not privy to anything behind the scenes, so anything I would say would just be speculation or assumption. I'm sure they're going, they're restructuring, and like a lot of businesses do, and resituating themselves, and hopefully they'll come back stronger and faster than what they were before. The wrestling business needs them, and the wrestlers need them, and the fans need them too.
Yes, I have to agree with you, because competition really helps wrestling grow.
I want to remind all the fans who, knock and, run it down that when it's gone, then it's only WWE. Then they can only knock and run down WWE. They can't,
That's true.
They need more than just one thing to knock and run down. So. That's
true. And because it, competition helps keep the sport healthy. And back in the old days, I remember Superstars of Wrestling. They had all kinds of different territories. Smoky Mountain, Memphis, World Class, NWA, wrestling out of Puerto Rico. I mean, you had it all. And I mean, and now it's down to Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, TNA, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and without a competition, it doesn't keep wrestling healthy. It makes it kind of watered down and sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. So, yeah, and need TNA as much as possible. So,
and I have a question for you from a Facebook fan. It says, what unsigned indie wrestler do you think should be signed?
Oh, jeez. Man. That's a tough one. I'd have to. There's a guy over in England, Marty Scurll. I think he's a very capable guy. There's a couple other guys. I don't come right off the top of my head, but Marty is one of the guys that comes right to mind. And I'd have to say Marty Scurll.
Okay. Thank you for answering that question for the Facebook audience.
No problem. Well, guys, it's been on here for about a half hour. I think I'm going to have to hop off. I really appreciate you guys giving me the time. And, if anybody wants to, find me, they can find me on Facebook at The Real Al Snow, or they can find me on Twitter at The Real Al Snow, or on Instagram at The Real Al Snow, because, yes, there were some fakes, and I informed them that if they were going to fake being a celebrity, they should aim higher than me. But I really appreciate you guys having me out. And also,
thank you so much for being on.
So.
Thank you so much for being on, Al, and we really appreciate you taking time out to come on the show today, sir. We wish you all the best in everything you do, and go and like Al Snow's Wrestling Academy. I believe you got a page on Facebook. Yes. I believe it is.
Yes, I do, and then I also have The Real Al Snow on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. Also, Al Snow's Academy is on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please like it all.
Okay, well, thank you so much, sir, for being on. Hope you have a great day.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a former ECW wrestler, former WWE wrestler, and current Impact Wrestling superstar, Mr. Al Snow. I think that was a great interview. What do you think, Jason?
It was definitely a great interview, and we got to find out a lot about the business. The fans got to hear it from Al Snow himself, and it was a very great show today. I definitely enjoyed it. He's a consummate wrestling fan. I've loved this business my whole life. Anytime you get to talk to a guy like Al Snow, it's a good day.
I have to agree 100% with you. Al Snow is a very knowledgeable, and get him on the WSE Lounge. This one should be a treat for everybody. So here we go.
And ladies and gentlemen, there have been so many gimmicks that come from this very gimmick, and this man you are about to hear live. The exotic Adrian Street, two come to mind from the state of Georgia, that being Simon Sermon and Tommy Too Much, but we're the exotic.
Hello, is this Adrian?
Yeah.
Hey, Adrian, welcome to the WSE Lounge, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. This is Brian, and my co-host is Jason. Yes. Welcome to the show, sir.
It's nice to be on.
Thank you so much for being on and taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. It's such an honor to interview you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. What was it that made you decide that you wanted to be a wrestler?
Well, I was very good at hurting people, and I thought I might as well get paid for it.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer. I mean, Jason, you got a question for Adrian?
Certainly do. What were things you did to keep the longevity of your 40-plus year career?
I didn't hear that.
Okay, Jason.
I didn't hear that, Brian. You're gonna have to translate.
Okay, he said what was some of the things that you did to keep your longevity in your career?
Looking after myself, I think, sort of eating right, training right, and the fact that I come from a very, very family.
Now, speaking of family, your dad was actually worked at a mill. Is that correct?
No, coal mine.
Coal mine. Yes. I'm sorry. I knew it was something like that. So how?
My dad had me out of school working in a coal mine when I was 15 years of age.
Wow.
I didn't like that too much. It's bloody dark and dangerous down there. And I needed a spotlight. It's hard to be seen down there. I was made to be seen. So, he had me working in a coal mine when I was 15. That's the likely answer about that for me. But anyway, I went away from home when I was 16. I became a model for bodybuilding magazines. I boxed on a fairground booth. And I'm not a good boxer. I'm a good fighter. But fighting and boxing is two different things. You know what I mean? In fighting, there's no rules. In boxing, there are. And I've always been a believer in it doesn't matter how you win as long as you cheat. I became a professional wrestler. My first pro match in 1957 when I was still 16. I had my last professional wrestling match on the 14th of June 2014. So I had a 57-year professional wrestling career. I've been champion just about everywhere I've been. I've held 4 world titles in 3 different weight divisions. I don't know anybody that's done that. I don't know anybody else that's done that.
Wow, that right there is incredible.
I guess the only thing that stops me from being perfect is my modesty.
You got another question, Jason, for Adrian?
Well, one of my favorite wrestling movies, heck, maybe one of my favorite movies of all time, Grunt the Wrestling movie. Well, if you know the truth, what was it? How was it filming it? Sorry about that.
Yeah, you can have to translate again, Brian.
Okay. He said that one of his favorite movies was Grunt the Wrestling movie, and he said, in fact, not if that it may have been his all-time favorite movie. He said, what was it like for you filming on that movie?
It was really hard work, actually, especially the Battle Royal. But I mean, that movie was so bad it was good, you know. But anyway, they actually used three of my songs in that movie. At that particular time, I'd only actually actually written, performed, and performed four songs, four records, and actually 3 of the 4 in that movie, and that's what inspired me to do another 2 albums worth. In actual fact, our music is being brought out again on vinyl because vinyl was kind of old-fashioned, but all of a sudden it's like the new kid on the block again.
Yeah.
There's a company it's just bringing albums out again on vinyl, and at the same time, there's another company in the UK called Gods and Monsters, and they're bringing them out on vinyl as well. And talking about films, I've written 7 books which you can get on Amazon, Kindle, Nook, and they've actually inspired a movie that's in the early stages of production in Britain as we speak, and that is going to be called Adrian, which is kind of appropriate. And my oldest son, Adrian Jr., is co-writing it. I'm not going to. I'm there to sort of advise anybody if there's anything they want to know or anything like that. They can do that, but I'm a little bit too close to it to actually want to write any more of the script myself, because like I said, I've written 7 books of my autobiography, 57 years worth, well, more than 57 years actually, because I've written it from the time I was born right up until just about the present. And quite honestly, I've had such a very, very, very eventful and adventurous life that I wouldn't know what to put in or what to take out. So I'll leave that to the pleasure to somebody else, you know.
Wow, that is incredible. And Adrian the movie actually was inspired by your book you wrote, Merchant the Menace. Is that correct?
It was inspired by all of them, actually. The first book in my autobiography that I wrote is My Big Gas Mask, and then So Many Ways to Hurt, then I Only Laugh When It Hurts, then So Many Ways to Hurt You, then Sessions in Sequence, then Violence is Gold, and then the last one is Merchant the Menace, the one you just mentioned.
Wow. I remember as a kid watching you come to the ring and wrestle and dance and sing and wrestling. You were one of my favorites. Do you feel like your legacy is living on to different wrestlers such as Rico, Goldust, and Tyler Breeze?
Well, Rico was actually sent to me by Vince McMahon, who said Adrian Street is the only one that does that sort of image properly. Unfortunately, I told him a few things that would have made him into a much bigger name than he got to be. It wasn't his fault. It was the bloody scriptwriters or whatever they have, something that we never had nowadays. The scriptwriters wrote a different sort of theme to Rico's image than I did. I mean, for instance, he had some girl with him, I can't remember what her name was, but I mean, she was crawling all over him and everything like that. And I mean, that is the way to do that sort of thing. I mean, Linda would never would have done that.
Uh-huh.
And it's Vince McMahon's scriptwriters, I suppose, that sort of had a hard-on for his ballet, and they gave her the leading part. Can't do it that way. You know, I mean, I was like a domineering sort of slave driver and everything like that. That's where I got a lot of my heat. And I wouldn't have got that if I'd let Linda sort of take the lead, you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. Well,
Linda was sort of happy about folks, more or less, and something that I could, when I was a bad guy, you know, when I was a heel, ladies and would be sort of faithful and sort of submissive and everything like that, while I was like the horrible sort of demanding sort of master. And then the thing is, when I wrestled the baby face, then she was sort of something that that the bad guys could threaten. You know, they couldn't hurt me because I'm too damn good a wrestler. You know what I mean? But the thing is, they could get to me through Linda and get a heat that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that worked very well for me. But it's strange, you know. You mentioned some of these other sort of copycats and double timers or whatever you want to call them. That sort of copy or try to copy my style.
Uh-huh.
The thing is, like the mannerisms and everything like that, they were easy, you know, they were easy to mimic. I mean, anybody could do that. You know, just sort of slap some makeup on, which nobody was doing before I came to the States. That was the one that started all of that. And like I say, anybody can sort of mimic my sort of mannerisms, and that's kind of individual. All they could do is part their lips and sort of do like a lip wrist sort of salute or something like that. But I've yet to see anybody in this business mimic my wrestling skills. They can't do it.
I must say, the old saying goes, often imitated but never duplicated.
You can say that again. Nature Boy Bunny Watkins said that first. And even though I wrestled myself in Europe as a Nature Boy, 17 years before Ric Flair ever had his first professional wrestling contest, even though I wrestled as Nature Boy myself, I would say that nobody has ever really duplicated Buddy Rogers. He was the original. He was my idol. He was my friend. You got another question, Jason?
Yes. So, when did you meet your wife, Miss Linda?
He said when did you meet your wife, Linda?
I met Linda in 1969, and how I come to meet her was I just bought my first house in London, and I wanted to decorate it myself. And I went to a thing in Earl's Court that they call the Ideal Home Exhibition, and it was there that I saw marine tropical fish for the first time outside of an aquarium or a zoo. It was absolutely like a new thing. And I've always loved anything exotic. And those fish were absolutely fantastic. And anyway, the guy in the exhibition told me that they had a store that wasn't really very far away from where I lived in London. And when I went to visit it, Linda was working there. And it was from Linda that I bought most of the, she was the one who actually served me when I bought most of my fish. And I always joked that, I think she saw me sick once, so if they die, and I'd have to go back to the mall. But anyway, that's how I first met Linda, and we've been together since 1969.
Wow, that is an amazing journey. And that just you don't really hear about relationships that long in this world anymore, and that right there, that is just incredible. I mean, to stay together and be together that long, I mean, that is amazing, Adrian.
The thing is, I've mentioned that to some people. I mean, some of the old timers I know and everything, I might say like, oh yeah, well, I've been with my wife like sort of 5 years or 6 years or 8 years or like longer than that. But in actual fact, maybe in years they have, but not in actual time spent together they have, because Linda and I have been together virtually 24/7 in all that time. Other people that go to work and, their wife has done this and something else, but Linda and I have been together for all that time. life is an adventure. We've had one hell of an adventure together, one hell of a journey. It's been fantastic. We've been together, like I say, we've been together for however many years that is, since 1969, and I would like another 1,000 bloody years with her. She is my soulmate.
Wow, that is incredible. What?
If she goes to the store, if she goes out there to the post office or the stores or anything like that, and I'm not with her, I actually get lonely and frustrated until she's back home again.
Oh wow! Well, I'll tell you what, that's what you call true love, Adrian. That's what you call true love.
Exactly.
Where did the name Exotic come from? For the gimmick of Adrian Street, where did the name come from? Exotic.
The strange thing is, when I first started wrestling in 1957, like I say, one of my idols was Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, and the other one was Dudley Johnson.
Uh-huh.
And when I first started wrestling in 1957, I actually wrestled as Kid Thompson Jonathan as a tribute to one of my two favorite wrestlers. And when I first started wrestling then for the big time pro wrestlers, for the big time promotions, for whatever reason they didn't like the name Kid Thompson Jonathan. And they were going to call me Adrian Stewart. Now, Stewart is a Scottish name. I've got nothing against Scots. I love them. But I'm not Scottish. I'm Welsh. And I didn't want to have a Scottish name. I didn't want to be known as a Scottish wrestler. I'm a Welsh wrestler, very proud of it. So I told them if they couldn't, if they wouldn't sort of carry on using the name Kid Thompson Jonathan, then I would wrestle under my own name, my real name, which is Adrian Street. Well, I wrestled as Adrian Street. I've had various names over there, like Nature Boy, Adrian Street, in Jewel, most of the time. I've had a few other names over there as well, but, basically it's like Nature Boy, Adrian Street. I wanted to wrestle in the States, but I went to Mexico first before I came here. Well, I went to Canada first, wrestled to Stu Hart. Then I went back to Germany to do a tournament. Then after the German tournament, I went down to wrestle in Mexico. And it was in Mexico that they actually called me Exotico because street didn't mean anything down there.
Uh-huh.
So they actually called me Exotico Adrian. Exotico Adrian. That's where I wrestled as down there. Where I wrestled down there for a few months, and while I was there, I actually got the attention of Mike LaBelle from Hollywood Promotions in Los Angeles, and I was doing that well down there. You imagine that I would do very well in California, and it was him that actually brought me in. But anyway, when I actually came in for him, he knew me as the Exotico Adrian, so he actually called me Exotic Adrian Street, and that was the first time that I was ever called Exotic Adrian Street. It was Mike LaBelle. Mike LaBelle actually named me after me being named Exotico Adrian in Mexico. And the strange thing is, even in Europe now, even though I never, ever, ever wrestled in Europe as Exotic Adrian, I'm even known as Exotic Adrian in Europe now as a result of sort of being called out in the States and doing that well in the States.
Wow. So whenever you got started and stuff, I know that I know that a lot of people portrayed you as something you were that you weren't, because you said that you would you would go ahead and you'd have the makeup on and stuff, and I know in one interview you said you went backstage and they said, well, who's that woman, and you asked them what they meant. Can you tell everybody about that?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What was it again?
I said I know that when you first started that you had on makeup and everything and pigtails, and I know that when you went backstage, some of the guys asked you. They said some of the fans were asking who's that woman. Can you tell everybody about that experience?
I'm not really understanding
the question is like you were like when you first started off as Adrian Street in Continental and everything, when you came out, they thought that it was a woman that came out, and you had to tell them, you said, no, I'm a man. I'm just doing that because in honor of Buddy Rogers stuff,
Yeah, the thing is, when I first started doing that in Britain, there was a writer who used to write all their magazines, and he used to write worldwide. He was actually Canadian, called Charles Maskell, and he is the guy that it's the way I used to train and everything like that in Britain reminded him of Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, and it was him that gave me the idea. It was him that actually gave me the name. I didn't name myself. It was him that named me, and I was so flattered. But in Europe, people didn't know who Nature Boy Buddy Rogers was. So I was like the original Nature Boy over there. But the thing is, I knew who it was, and it was because Charles Maskell named me the Nature Boy, and he's the guy who used to write all the magazines and write the programs and things like that over there. And it was then they began actually calling me Adrian Nature Boy Street on the posters and programs and everything like that. Then I decided then that if I was going to carry that mantle, I needed to look the part. I had dark hair at the time, my natural color hair and all that. So it was then I bleached the hair and started sort of buying and designing my own sort of fancy gowns. And the first time I ever walked the ring wearing that sort of thing, I had a 27-inch waist, a 48-inch chest. I looked great. The blonde hair, the blonde hair. The way it sat down, everything like that. And I imagine all the people go like, oh, wow, what a great looking at last week, Adrian Street is. And that sort of thing. Instead of that, the reaction I got was like, Barry, oh, isn't she cute? Don't give us a kiss. Quite honestly, I was absolutely disappointed. I was horrified. I was shocked. I was really pissed off. At the same time, I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of knowing that they'd done that. And the thing is, before I ever walked out of the dressing room, our business is famous for stabbing each other in the back, A lot of them do that with their up, and a lot of the rest is, you're not going out like that, that isn't going to work. As it happens, they were right, but I wasn't going to admit it. I wasn't going to let it not work. But the thing is, instead of allowing the people to see how disappointed and shocked I was with their response, I played after it as if that was what I meant to do.
Yeah. Well,
there's my opponent going on the act, like sort of having his lips and giving me like the limp wrist sort of salute and everything like that. So I rushed over, grabbed him, and gave him a kiss. And now he was the one who was embarrassed, not me. And the people went wild over that. But I I mean, the reaction I got was fantastic. So I walked back in the dressing room, like also pretending to be proud of myself, even though I was still a bit bewildered. There you are, like, what about that? I said to the rest as if that was what I meant to do, which, to be completely honest, it wasn't. Anyway, I said, what's up? Maybe they'll get for tomorrow night. Tomorrow night was the same. The night after was the same. And I said, what's up? Damn, that's not the reaction I'm looking for. But then that word reaction sort of stuck in my mind. I said, it wasn't the reaction I was looking for. There was a damn sight more reaction than anybody else on the card got. And I thought, so damn it, like whatever it is, I want more of it. Those people are making more noise for me. I'm getting more attention than anybody else has got. And I've always been a sucker for attention. as you might have, as you might have guessed. Nobody's going to deny that.
Yeah, I mean.
That's how it started. And the thing is, from there, I just kept on pushing the envelope a little bit more. And that's how my style developed.
Wow, I got to tell you, it sounds like you turned the tables on them, and you showed them. Yeah, you showed them you were getting the spotlight.
Yeah, you got that right.
We got a caller for you, Adrian. We got a fan that wants to ask you a question.
Okay.
Okay, 770. You're on the air with Adrian Street.
Yes, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I was wondering if you ever wrestled the British Kendo Nagasaki.
No, never did. There are different weight divisions in Britain. And Kendo Nagasaki was a heavyweight. And at the same time, I was like, I wrestled with between a lightweight and a middleweight division. Never did wrestle with it. And it wasn't, they didn't usually put two villains on together. I was like nearly always a villain in the UK.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. You got another question, Jason?
Adrian, who was your favorite wrestler to work in a match?
Who's my what?
He
your
said,
favorite wrestler to...
Your favorite wrestler to work against in a match?
Without a doubt, the lightweight champion of the world, George Kidd, who, not just in my opinion, but I mean, the thing is the opinion of a lot of people in Europe too. George Kidd is a lightweight champion of the world, and he was the best technical wrestler that ever put a pair of boots on. In the beginning, we really didn't like each other at all. We hated each other. But the thing is, I learned so much from George Kidd. George Kidd would do more technical wrestling in one contest than anybody else that I've ever seen doing their entire bloody careers. He was fantastic. Like I said, we didn't like each other, but I'm going to give the guy credit. He was fantastic. And I learned more about shoot wrestling and everything like that from George than I learned from anybody else. I mean, I had a manager named Mike Dimitri, who was a lightweight, the junior heavyweight shoot champion of the world. He was my manager, and within his interest, teach me as much shoot wrestling and everything like that as he could. Like I say, he was absolutely amazing. I couldn't beat him back in those days, even though he was in a really bad physical shape, and in his late 50s, early 60s when he was my manager. In actual fact, his hip and one of his arms were in such bad condition that he couldn't wrestle me standing up. He'd get down on his hands and knees, and he'd allow me the advantage of getting on top of him. And I would only ever meet him once, and that was like with a cheap shot. I would have been disqualified straight away if it had been like a contest with a referee, you know.
Wow. There's a question I got.
George Kidd taught me more than anybody else I know. The thing is, as far as shoot wrestling is concerned, there is a wrestling school in Britain, in a place called Wigan, a dirty, grimy little mining town in Lancashire, and there was a wrestler called Billy Riley, who was absolutely the king of shoot wrestling. And he had a school there that is called Snake Pit, and that was full of fantastic bloody wrestlers. And we used to wrestle with those. I mean, I was wrestling 40 times a month when I started wrestling for the big time. I'd wrestle more than once in a day. And you can bet your life that 3, 4, 5, maybe half a dozen of those contests that I had in a week would be against somebody from Wigan. And I tell you what, those guys were absolutely shit hot, and if you couldn't take it, they wouldn't give it to you. You know what I mean? They would give you a hard time unless you could defend yourself. So you had to learn to, if you could handle those guys, you could handle anything in the world. You know, it didn't matter. They could be bloody Sambo wrestlers from Russia. They could be all the wrestlers from Turkey. They could be Greco-Roman wrestlers from bloody Hungary or from whatever. It doesn't matter. They could be Jiu-Jitsu wrestlers from Brazil. It didn't matter what they were. They came to Britain and they wanted to make a big name for themselves. And the thing is, if you used to wrestle with anybody from Wigan, you could take or beat anything that came at you from all around the world. And that's the reason why, if I don't like anybody, I'll turn them inside out, outside down, and I'll do what I like with it. The thing is, I don't have a big stature. A lot of people think you can't wrestle in the States. You're not big enough. The States, America, that's the land of giants. You know, the guys are so big, and they are. I'm 5'7", and when I came out here first to wrestle, I only weighed about just over 170 pounds. And you get big guys like 6'6" and 280 pounds and everything like that. I'd be wrestling with them, and they'd look at me and say, like, hey, how can a big guy like me lose to a little guy like you? And my response to that was, don't worry about it, man. As soon as we get in there, I'll show you.
I got a question for you from a Facebook fan, Adrian. They said, how was it working in Florida, notably with Dusty Rhodes?
Dusty Rhodes is a big pony. He could talk. He could talk and talk and talk. But, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, talk is cheap, but an awful lot of wrestlers get away with it in the States. If they could do a good interview and everything like that, his advantage was he could talk and get the people to believe that he could actually do a lot of these things. And another advantage was that he was the booker and matchmaker. So however he wanted the match to go, that's the way he went. He fired me in the end because I gave him a hard time. I used to call him Dusty Rhodes, the American Queen. And he didn't like that too much. If you want to know more about that, read my book, Balance is Gold, because I put no stops. Read Balance is Gold, and I'll tell you exactly the way it was as far as that sort of thing is concerned.
Okay.
Dusty Rhodes couldn't find his way out of a wet paper bag if it was for real, and he didn't have the power to do it.
Okay, well, thank you for answering that question for the Facebook fan, and I wanted to ask you, how did it feel for you when fans were in shock, when fans stood in shock as you saved Bullet Bob Armstrong from being attacked by Robert Fuller, Jimmy Gold, and Tom Pritchard?
Yeah, in actual fact, fact, if you read my latest book, Merchant of Venice, I'll explain all of those things in there. It's hard to put all in a nutshell, but
okay.
Bob Armstrong, all the Armstrong family actually are really great personal friends of mine. The late great Brad Armstrong, for instance, was one of, if not the nicest person in real life that I have ever met, inside or outside of the ring. Bob Armstrong lives about 5-6 miles down the road from me. We always keep in touch. We go out and eat together. He comes around here. We work out together sometimes. I'm 75. Bob's a couple of years older than me. No, about a year and a half older than I am, and he still lifts weights and still keeps in shape. I admire the hell out of him and all his family. They're really, really great people. But, obviously, when I went to Wrestle Continental or Southeast Championship Wrestling, as it was back then in those days, we were opponents sometimes. And, obviously, you've got to appear to be enemies. But, anyway, there were some people I didn't sort of admire so much, like who's the guy I just mentioned, Robert Fuller and
Jimmy Golden and Tom Pritchard.
I like Jimmy Golden. He's a great guy. And in actual fact, he was my tag team partner in my last but one wrestling contest in my career.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How long did it take you to get ready on an average day before each match?
Oh, you mean the makeup and everything?
Yes, sir.
I'm used to doing it. I'm very athletic, so it usually takes me about 10 minutes to put the face on.
Wow. That's really artistic to be able to do it that fast. I didn't know that was even possible.
Well, the thing is, I'm an artist. I mean, I've done a lot of oil paintings and stuff like that. It's been sort of shown in all kinds of art galleries, things like that, even in the States.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the exhibition. Well, it was it was a permanent exhibition in our art gallery here in Pensacola until the actual art gallery closed down. I'm at work in the Gail Guido Gallery in Mansfield, Ohio. I've had my artwork shown and sold in places like the American Carousel Museum in Bristol, Connecticut. In actual fact, Linda and I were offered a job working in the Carousel Museum, the American Carousel Museum in Bristol, Connecticut. A job of restoring and painting, restoring and repainting the old antique carousel horses and everything. And also there's a Carousel Museum in Sandusky, Ohio, that used to carry a lot of my artwork, and there's lots of stores and things like that used to carry my artwork, my sort of sculptures and my paintings.
Wow, that is fascinating. That is fascinating. Jason, do you got another question for Adrian?
Yes. What was your favorite organization to work for?
Who's my favorite promotion, did you say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Jim Crockett. It's a time I had a feud with Jimmy Valiant, and then later Jimmy Valiant became my tag team partner. And quite honestly, the reason I like that is because they had some of the best talent ever. American talent and everything like that working for them at that time. But the main reason was the amount of money I made when I was there. I mean, it was terrific.
Who was your favorite feud out of Austin Idol and Wildcat Wendell Cooley?
Austin Idol's another pony. He couldn't bloody fight his way out of a wet paper bag. I didn't like him. He tried to be pleasant to me when I came here first. In actual fact, he phoned Linda up when I came into this territory first. And he took us for a meal, and he doesn't do that because he is so tight. He is so mean. He is such a money grubbing kid.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, he tried to be nice, and I knew exactly what he was doing. I mean, I know when people are genuine. I know when people are phony. He's one of the biggest phonies I've ever made in my life. My first contest for Southeastern Championship Wrestling, the lady got to be Continental, was against it for the Southeastern title. Well, I could have beaten him in 1 minute if I wanted to. That's how good a wrestler he is. He's a bodybuilder and a big mouth. That's all he is. I could have beaten him in 1 minute if I wanted to when it actually came to wrestling. I beat him in 5 minutes because I wanted to hurt him for 4 minutes more.
Wow.
Anyway, I'll tell you something. You talked about Bob Armstrong earlier. Bob Armstrong told me just recently I wrestled with Austin Idol twice Continental. The second match was like a return match for the title, but I gave him such a hard time. And he knew he wasn't going to get anywhere. That it was because of me that not only did he lose the title to me, but he actually lived in this area, but he never wrestled for Southeastern or Continental again because I was here. And in Bob Armstrong's words, he said, "Thank you, Adrian." He said, "For getting rid of Austin Idol." He said he was shit scared of you. He said he didn't want to be in the same room.
Wow. I gotta ask you, Adrian. You were talking about Bob Armstrong. There's a good friend of Bob Armstrong's that I'm actually good friends with. Do you ever get a chance to talk to Mr. Olympia Jerry Stubbs? I'm actually a good friend of his.
Jerry's a great guy. He's a genuine guy. Jerry will tell you the way it is.
Yes. Yeah. He's a very awesome person.
Whenever we get new interviews and stuff like that, we'll sort of say whatever sort of bullshit comes into our mind. Just going to get a reaction from people who put us on seats. But in real life, Jerry Stubbs is a genuine guy, and he'll say the way it is. If he doesn't like you, you'll know it. And if he likes you, you'll know it. He's not a smarmy kid like the idiots we're just talking about, like people like Austin Idol, what have you.
Yeah, he would. Jerry came on the show about a year and a half ago. He was telling a lot of classic stories on the show and stuff, and I really enjoy hearing his classic stories and stuff. And I've known Jerry for, I guess, a couple years. My neighbor is actually Jerry's cousin, so we have a pretty good friendship. But I haven't talked to Jerry in about a month. I seen Jerry. He was down at a independent wrestling company. He made an appearance down there because his granddaughter was go to school there. So that was really nice seeing him there.
Well, I'll be seeing Jerry in a couple more weeks because Dennis Gale and Jerry are putting the show on like a fan
a fan. Yeah.
In a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, wow.
I'll see Jerry there, and I'll tell him that you said hello.
Okay, yeah. Tell him I said hello.
And I believe what I'm thinking of it, on that subject, what I'm thinking of it, you've got Al Snow on later in the show, I believe. Would you please tell him I said hello?
Okay, yeah. We had Al Snow on just a little while ago, and what I'll do after the show, I'll tell Al Snow you said hello.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. You got another question for Adrian Jason?
Yes, I would like to know would he rather work heel or face?
He said would you rather work heel or face?
I still like wrestling as a heel, actually. You have a lot more control over the people. The thing is, it's much easier to make people hate you than to make people love you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing is, the reason at the end I prefer to wrestle as a babyface, as a good guy, is that we were so hard as heels, Linda was getting attacked all the time. I mean, even when she had a broken ankle, and she was on crutches, I mean, she was in a much more dangerous position than I was. She'd be standing outside the ring watching me with her back to the audience. And, I've known people to jump on her back. Even when she was on crutches. I mean, it'd be sorry when they took her to the ground because Linda would beat the shit out of her.
Wow.
At the same time, it was making her very nervous. She got me. She needed to watch me in the ring because I might not do it also to get her to do something. And she didn't want to miss a cue from me. If I wanted her to get involved or hand me something or something like that. But at the same time, like when her attention was there, she didn't know what the hell was going to happen behind. And the thing is, it's got to be so damn dangerous for her that I was happy to sacrifice what I like to best for something that can be a little bit safer.
Wow, I'll tell you that it's dangerous out there because you don't never know what what people do. You have to watch your back at all times and keep your eyes focused.
Well, the thing is, if anybody wanted to attack me, they would have to get in the ring to do it.
Yeah.
Or else try to do it on the way back when my attention wasn't sort of diverted by anything else. Now, if they was brave enough or stupid enough, I should say, to get in a ring with me, then they're in my territory, you know what I mean? And the thing is, if I can bust up a 6'8", 300-pound tough guy, if I can turn people like Wahoo McDaniel into a pretzel, to use his own expression, after he came out of the ring when he wrestled me one time. You can just imagine what I can do to an opponent who's stupid enough to get in a ring with me. But the thing is, like I say, with Linda, especially when she was on crutches, with her attention on the ring and her back to whoever is going to attack her, it was no fun for her at all,
Yeah. I think that it's so cool that you created Mick Foley's gear. He wore his Dude Love when he was fighting Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, he was another good friend of mine, and I said to you that Inside or Outside Wrestling, Ron Armstrong was one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Mick Foley is another one. Mick Foley is genuine. I've very rarely heard Mick Foley say anything bad about anybody. And I'll tell you, in our business, you've got lots of scope. If you want to say anything bad about people, you've got lots of scope. There's a lot of not nice people in our business, but I never heard Mick Foley say a bad word about anybody. He is a good, genuine guy.
What kind of guy was Andre the Giant? Did you ever have the privilege to meet him or work with him?
I knew Andre the Giant. I knew Andre the Giant when he came to Britain first. He was 21 years of age. He weighed 270 pounds. He was 6'11", which is what he was. He was never 7'7" or 7'5" or 7'4" or anything else. In Britain, they don't exaggerate anybody's size. They don't exaggerate your height or anything else. If you're a certain size, that is what you are. Andre the Giant was 6'11", and in those days he weighed 275 pounds. He wrestled in Britain as Jean Fair. He was a good friend of mine way back then. The last time I saw him, although he must have weighed like close to 500 pounds or something like that. And I guess they give him like a big afro haircut in those days. If you measured him from the ground to the top of his afro, maybe he was over 7 feet. If you measured the top of his head, he was 6'11".
Wow, that's an interesting fact we just learned. They say you learn something new every day.
Yeah. He's correct. I always thought Andre was 7 feet.
Do you have another question, Jason?
No, I was just saying he's correct about that because I've always heard